You're listening to EWBSX, the Cyber Bully, the world's first and only 24/7 right-wing internet schizo mixtape.
Who's to know?
You may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
'Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us. 'Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us.
What the hell's going on out here?
Salute. I am your voice.
Good afternoon, Patriots. This is Agent Q.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him.
It's important to segregate.
What is that? I've got an idea. Why don't we just kill him?
I like how you.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the ASTROLABE. It is Friday. What a Friday intro. That was too much fun. Man, I have been dragging ass. I've been dragging ass trying to get myself in here. Oh, man, I'm tired. It has been a Friday the 13th for sure. And we get two of them in a row, don't we? Matt Erickstein. Yes, Matt Erickstein has arrived. What are we going to talk about tonight? So Trump has nuked a major climate regulation. The EPA, Lee Zeldin over at the EPA, has rolled back basically all the major emissions, climate emission standards. There's one thing that I'm going to get into a little later here tonight. The Massie Khanna. I don't know how you pronounce this. Is it Khanna or is it Kahana? Is there a difference between Khanna and Kahana? Ro Kahana. That's how I've always heard it pronounced. I've always heard it Ro Kahana, but then if you say Kahana, it sort of sounds. Anyways, the Massie Kahana thing that is going on right now. I sort of have some speculations about directionally what this may be aimed at, what's motivating all of it. And I've got a clip from the All In podcast toward the back end of the show that we will listen to, we'll watch, because there's another major thing that Ro Kahana is involved in right now, and I think these things are not disconnected from one another. But then there's also some odds and ends stuff, and we're going to start off with some Suda clips from our great Adjut Prop Master. Make sure you guys show up tomorrow afternoon, probably late afternoon, early evening sometime is when we'll get started doing the SUDALABE, the Saturday SUDALABE. He said that this is going to be one of the most wave-heavy ones that he has ever done. So make sure you guys show up for that. You will not want to miss it. Tomorrow, the SUDALABE. And then, let me think, was there anything else I needed to say? Oh boy! Miles Standish!
How to get it in Brazil.
Thank you, Miles Standish. And also...
Oh, yeah.
The Keekman is circumcising up niggas. Metsitsupe niggas.
Not the Keekman! Thank you to Jadolf Keekman for the $3 tip. I completely forgot. One thing that I forgot to do right here before I shill the tips link and everything. Let's see, it was 1788. Okay, so let me fix this real quick. 400. Whoops. And 1788 is what we have gotten so far. So let me set this back up there again. We have a daily tip goal, and those of you who watched yesterday, you will know the little game we're playing now with the tips. If you go to form.kingpill.com, and enter your information there. You're just going to give me a name that I can call you, that I can refer to you as, and a way that I can contact you. We're going to do this once a month. I'm just going to keep a list of all of the people who have signed up, and if we hit the tips goal on a given day, then I will do a giveaway. I will take a random name from that list, and you will get a gift card in the amount of 10% of whatever the daily tip goal is. So you gotta hit the goal. We gotta make sure we get to the goal, and then once we go beyond that, it will count up to infinity. And some lucky person who has entered their name on that list will be rewarded with 10% of the total in a retailer of your choice's gift card. No purchase necessary. All the terms and conditions and everything are on that. So form.kingpill.com. Go sign up. It is absolutely free. And you could win some money. Let me get this here. Tips link. Make sure that's there. Obviously, this is a fully viewer, listener-supported show. And it's not just the show that is fully listener-supported. It is our entire lifestyle. I say lifestyle. This is the way we pay all of our bills. This is the way my family pays our bills. So your guys' support means the world. Thank you to all of you who have contributed. And frankly, there's not that many people who have signed up so far. I'm kind of surprised. There's relatively few. There's nothing. You don't lose anything. I mean, you have to give me like an email address or something like that. But I'm going to wipe it every month. So it just gets purged off. The only reason I have it there is just so I have a way of picking someone and being able to contact them. And I'll wipe it every single month so that it ensures that this is a competition for regular Labians only. Tips.kingpill.com, and then Miles Standish has renewed his subscription on Kick for 9 months. Man, we've got 9 month subscribers. crazy. Still feels kind of like I just got to kick. He says, I'm a 2X replay guy, so Matt always sounds hammered drunk live. Yes. Yeah, I listen to very, very few things at 1X, and when I do, I start getting jittery. Thank you to Pale Morning Dude for all of the kicks. Thank you to Sculptor Sam for resubscribing. Thank you to Creek Dweller for resubscribing. And
welcome to the Gulag.
Jay Sizzle.
If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Thank you to Jay Sizzle for resubscribing. All of you guys are absolute patriots. Let me make sure I check all these off. And, oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I didn't even see this one. It was buried.
Inspired by the Discord chat today.
I don't know what the Discord chat, I don't know what Discord chat you're referring to. But Dave Johnson, thank you, man, for the 1488. That is, so that's not included in the 1788. So just take 1788 and add 1488 to it. And that's what we're actually at. Just remind me at the very end of the show, if we go over the $400, just make sure at the end of the show that you remind me to include Dave's tip in there. And you can also send something to Cash App or Venmo at King Pilled for both of those. Just let me know if you do. Because I won't be notified on those. Those will not play on the stream. So just let me know if you do. And if you send one through tips.kingpill.com and it doesn't pop up, give it 5 minutes or so. And if it doesn't pop up, then just let me know so I can make sure that I get those included. Miles says, I'll give you 20 more bucks just to start the show. Well, you're in luck because now it is time to start the show. Beginning with a couple of pseudo-waves that I haven't even seen yet because our propagandist here sent these over to me just before the show started. So here is, oh boy!
Here we go. Money talk.
Ow! Owie!
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar. Ching, ching, bling, bling, cut the chatter. You ain't talking money, then you're talking no matter.
Happy Friday the 13th, Patriots.
Howie Snowden with the $114.88 tip. Thank you, my friend. It's good to see you, man. Haven't seen you in a little while. Hope things are going well. Thank you. You are a patriot. We need to make sure we meet up again next time I'm up in the DC area, or one of these times I'm up in there. We need to get connected again. All right, so that puts us up to 132.76 plus 14.88, whatever that is. So we're in the 147 range. Maybe we'll do it tonight. All right, here we go. Little pseudo wave for you guys. 46 seconds for this first one. I know what this is. Painter wave. Look at our propagandist.
Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us. Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us.
Beautiful. Go follow the man at Adjut Propmaster. Here is number 2. He says, this one's 57 seconds. He says, literally every Gen Y boy for thousands of hours, taking up multiple rooms of single-family homes. Ha ha ha! Oh, I know exactly what this is. Yes!
Going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Amy, we need to show this to Eastwood.
America.
Oh yeah, imagine not being American. I don't know if this. I assume this is probably actually America. But even if it wasn't, it would still be American, because everything cool is by default American. One more wave. One more wave. Okay, hold on. Let me come open it up. Updating the show live in real time. Ooh, every prom after we win. Okay, this one's about a minute long. Hot off the presses, a beautiful, fresh Sudawave. Every prom after we win. Share screen and go.
Feel myself heavy off the ground. I'm scared I'm not coming down. No.
We're gonna live in a society again.
She's got the toss now locked down in a smile, but nothing is alright. Alright. I want something else to get me through this.
This is so good.
I want something else. Not listening when you say goodbye.
This is exactly what it's gonna be like. With the sitar. Oh man, Paul Suda, you brilliant bastard! Thank you, sir. There you go. There you guys got a little tease here at the start. Tomorrow will be Trump 47, week 56 of 208. Saturday morning, part 2. Cannot wait for that. Make sure you guys show up tomorrow for that. Here we'll be live on Kick and on Rumble and on X. And the Pseudolabes will not show up on YouTube. I cannot post those to YouTube. So if you're looking for them, they are not there. So far, we still haven't gotten another strike on the channel yet, which is kind of remarkable. Haven't even had one that's gotten blocked globally, which is kind of a little surprising to me. There was even one the other day where I did a little intermission and I played EWBSX for a bit. So I was playing songs, and that's what used to get the streams taken down, but it seemed to work fine. So that's good. All right, little follow up on yesterday's story about my wife saying about Eastwood. If he can't ride his bike down it, pee on it, or spit on it, he's not interested. It's terrifying. Yes, that is Eastwood. Yep, if he can't ride his bike down it, pee on it, or spit on it. Sometimes he will, but like he's collected jars of his own spit to like mix with mud and try to make concrete. He's a little savage. The boys are just truly boys, straight from the womb. 100%. It is a beautiful thing. Follow up on the AI conversation yesterday. Here's another example of the sort of thing I'm talking about with the AI agents. This guy here says, you don't understand. I was using Claude to help me set up some formulas for an Excel sheet that I use to forecast revenue. Claude suggested we build a web app instead due to limited Excel functionality. I then spent 3 hours standing up a full web app that is an interactive cash flow model that is fully custom to my business and has more robust capabilities than Excel. It sends me a Slack message if things dip below a certain dollar amount, flags me if I need to review something that our team is doing. It auto-populates data from QuickBooks and sends an email to our internal bookkeeper if there is an error. I am not technical. It walked me through setting up a database, setting up Vercel. I can ask for any feature I want, and it can seemingly add it and walk me through updating GitHub. I can ask questions. It doesn't get annoyed. It feels like a video game. And a brief screenshot from the conversation here. He said, do you think we can build buttons in Excel that let me add a new partner with a generated template to fill out? And Claude said, Excel doesn't support true buttons without VBA macros, which are clunky and often get blocked by security settings. A better approach would be to build this as an interactive React app. You'd get actual add remove partner buttons, clean monthly navigation across 3 years, and it'd be way easier to use than a spreadsheet for this. This is the sort of thing I'm talking about. think about any of you who have run a business or done stuff that involves like tracking lots of data or filtering through lots of noise or keeping track of a budget or anything like that. And you've wanted, maybe you've kind of taught yourself how to use Excel so that you can do all of these things, but it's a gigantic pain in the ass, and you have to memorize so many things, and you have to sit there and mess around with it, and get these deep, complicated formulas and try to remember how all the different tools work and everything. That's like, I don't use Excel for a living. I just need to use Excel sometimes. Well, now you can have a tool like this that will spin up a solution, where before you would have had to be like, man, I wish somebody could just make an app that would solve this problem for me. But you might be able to get an app, but if somebody decides to make it and mass produce it, but then you're going to have to pay for it, and you're going to have to deal with counterparty risk associated with it. Now, it'll just spin one up for you real quick and easy. So what we're going to see is we're going to see an explosion in bespoke personal apps. Like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, kids who grow up are going to grow up knowing how to build an app, like knowing how to tell an AI large language model to build an app for them, and they'll just spin up apps for whatever little purpose that they need. You could like spin up an app for one little custom purpose, do your thing with it, and then get rid of it. Obviously, there's compute costs that have to be factored in, but those are going to get driven way down over time. And even still, like even when there are costs, it's kind of like, how much time is this going to save me? How much am I going to end up making in the long run, given all of the time that I save with this? So it's not going to be like the death of apps or the death of even like software as a service. I think it's going to change it. It's going to substantially change the landscape and the distribution and the use cases. But what each one of these things represents is on an individual level, it represents an entirely new set of problems that can be easily solved by one or relatively few people. So the human beings who start using these tools en masse are going to suddenly drastically expand the landscape of the conceivable problems that they can solve. Now, that doesn't mean that problems are going away. It's like you're expanding further across the map and you're enabling yourself to get to new and different problems. You're never going to run out of problems, so you're never going to run out of jobs. You're never going to run out of work. You're never going to run out of things that you have to do. What this is going to do is it's going to introduce new things that you can do that you didn't think was previously possible. Like previously, you would have had to go pay for an app being provided to you by another person. Before that, someone would have said, what's an app? If you wanted to solve a problem like this, you have to do it like longhand. You might have had Excel. You could use Excel to do it, but before Excel, you would have had to sit here and like write this stuff out manually, hand by hand. Maybe you could have used a typewriter, but you'd still be doing it the long way. So human beings are still doing these things, but they now have tools that can allow them to do them much quicker and cheaper and faster, which gives them the ability to do other things, going beyond that. And then there are some things that you might never do, just because you're like, man, I'd love to be able to do this someday, but it's going to be such a pain in the ass to have to, like go through and gather all of this old data from some other thing or whatever the busy work is that you would have to do. You're like, I don't have time. There's no way I could sit down and commit myself to like a 5-day project like this. It'd be really, really nice to have it done, but there's no way that I can do it. Well, suddenly you're going to have a really simple, customizable, easily accessible resource to actually solve those problems. So then you can live the life that it's like, you're living the life where the problem isn't solved. Well, now you'll be able to live the life where the problem is solved, which is going to open up the landscape to discover new problems and then solve those. This is what I'm talking about. Like, you don't have all the debates over like whether or not it's sentient or whether or not it makes errors or all these sorts of things. These are like they are conversations that can be had in their own right, but those aren't the conversation. Not everything AI. When people are talking about AI, or if you're thinking about using AI or whatever, if you're veering off down this rabbit trail about, well, is it intelligent or is it sentient or is it like It's like a computer. Is a computer sentient? No, of course not. Does that mean, if you decide whether or not I'm going to use a computer, do I have to decide whether or not it's sentient? Do I have to decide whether or not it's intelligent? No, it's an automating function. It's an automating function that once I have this automating function, it gives me the ability to like display new things and access and make different connections and connect new parts of data and whatever else. It's like what is this? And this is just one example. This is why I wanted to bring this up. It's just one example. Because I'll see people who ask, they're like, well, what is AI going to do? Like, what am I going to be able to do with it? That's part of the fun, is clearly you're going to be able to do things that you couldn't do before, but who knows what all those things are. Here's one example. You just spin up an app real quick in a few hours, your own custom web app to solve things so you don't have to use Excel anymore. Just spin it up on the fly, and then you have it to use. You can troubleshoot it, you can add features to it, you can remove features from it, and you have a resource that's there that you can constantly go troubleshoot ideas with. And yes, will it get things wrong? Of course. But like, this is another one of these like mid-wit side quests. It's like, oh, well, it makes mistakes, or it hallucinates, or it tells you things are the case that aren't the case, or it leaves information out, or all these other things. Is like, sure, of course. What's the point? So you're saying that it can do things that were previously thought inconceivable, but also it makes mistakes? Okay, great. So let's do the things that were previously thought inconceivable and give ourselves the right to try to discover those mistakes and solve the problems that are associated with them. So this is going to be everyone who's like, oh, but the jobs. Literally, from time immemorial, people have been having these conversations. For as long as people have been able to develop tools, this conversation gets had over and over and over and over and over again. Do you know what doesn't exist anymore? Lamplighters. Or milk delivery. I mean, the milk delivery sort of does, but it doesn't exist the way it used to. Every time human beings come up with some sort of a new and different technology that automates, or because like technology, it's like it either automates or it creates a leverage point, and it's kind of the same thing, but it creates a leverage point for human beings to, what was the saying about give me a lever long enough and I can move the world, or something like that. It's lengthening that lever for you, enabling you to lift bigger and bigger things. But there's always going to be bigger and bigger things to lift. Being able to lift a big thing just introduces you to the fact that there's a bigger thing that still needs to be lifted. So there will always be work. In a tangible sense, what's really going to happen is prices are going to collapse. Prices are going to absolutely collapse. And you can look at this one or the other way. On one hand, prices collapsing means people are no longer able to charge the same amount of money for the same type of service. But what that means is that service is becoming virtually free. It's moving more and more towards free. That service is becoming so easy and cheap to provide that it's verging on free. So yeah, there are people who are doing those things who are no longer going to be paid to do those things. Blacksmithing used to be like one of the most important businesses in the small town. And now it's been turned into a whole bunch of other different things. You don't have a blacksmith where you just go like get your horse shoed as like a core industry within the town. Lamplighters, like I said. You invent the light bulb and you don't need to have a guy who goes around lighting the street lights and then putting all the street lights out. So he doesn't get to do that job anymore. So he can go do something else. So people who want to say, no, the rest of the world needs to stop and move around me so that I don't have to change anything about myself, those people are going to get trucked. This is what happens in every single generation. This is happening constantly, all the time. This is why that thing I read yesterday emphasized adaptability so much. The people who are adaptable are the ones who will actually not just not get the downside, they're actually going to get the upside of all of this, because there is going to be a tremendous, tremendous amount of upside here. And honestly, there's like people who think in this really zero-sum manner, where it's like, oh, we're just going to like eliminate the reason to have humans. Humans aren't going to have anything to do, and then they're just going to like shrivel up and die or something. You're revealing something, some like deep assumptions that you have about human nature that do not correspond to human nature or the nature of reality. Human beings are always going to find something to do. They're always going to have something to explore or develop or fix or pursue, or this is in the nature of humanity. And those opportunities are endless. Effectively infinite as far as we're concerned. So human beings are always going to have something to do, and there's always going to be opportunities for them to do something for someone else in exchange for value from that person. Whether it's in the form of money or in the form of food or in the form of housing or whatever. If you're just thinking very rigidly in terms of like, well, I go do job and then money get deposit in bank account. But if job no there, money no deposit in bank account. Well, yeah, that is true. Yeah, you're not going to get money deposited into your bank account from doing that job anymore. But the good news is there's going to be a whole new field, like fields upon fields upon fields of new things that you could go retrain in and go find some other new problem to solve. So anyways, okay, a couple little, just kind of fun little miscellaneous things here. First of all, someone said that John Harbaugh has the same voice as Joe Biden. And my sports bros out there, did any of you guys see this? I know Miles is here, Sapir B. Did you guys see this? This frickin' rocked my world. I like waking up and just kind of scrolling through some of these things, and I saw this and I was like, what? John Harbaugh and Joe Biden's voice? And holy shit.
This is the greatest country, and this is the greatest experiment in governing and the greatest experiment in society building that's ever been attempted in the history of the world. I mean, what this is about was never even comprehended in the history of the world until 1776, when these founding fathers came up with this idea. And then it was founded on some premises that they weren't ready to achieve, and we still haven't gotten there yet, but that's okay. We're fighting our way to accomplish all the things that this country was founded on. You know, we should try to do it together. That's what I think.
And on the sideline, when the national anthem plays?
Yeah. I'm going to be proud to be standing out there.
No, this is not AI. This is an actual, he was just hired as the coach of the New York Giants. And it sounds like him. Like, I'd never put those two together before. But like, as soon as I hear him start talking, I'm like, oh yeah, that's John Harbaugh's voice. And he sounds exactly like Joe Biden. Crazy. What's funny is that the Harbaughs are notoriously not, let's say, not Biden fans. They're the Harbaughs are such a delightful family. It's funny. I grew up being hating the 49ers, and then there was the whole Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh thing, and I could not stand Jim Harbaugh. I thought he had the most punchable face ever. I wanted Jim Harbaugh's complete and utter destruction. And now I cannot get enough of the Harbaugh family. Their dad is literally just them. Jim and his dad are the same person. And they do not give one shit what anybody else thinks about them. They're like the happiest people in the world. Let me see if I can, I'm going to see if I can find a video of this here real quick, because it's extremely wholesome. There's one video in particular, but I don't remember the exact details of it. Harbaugh family. Let's see. Let's try this one. See if they have their. No, they don't have their dad there. Harbaugh family and dad. Okay, here. This is their dad. For those of you who know the Harbaugh brothers, this is their dad.
A family that will use for a long time. And it goes like this. Who's got it better than us? I know you get tense during these games.
A family that will use for a long time. And it goes like this. Who's better than us? No!
Nobody!
I ain't got a question, but my dad does.
Jack Harbaugh, what's your question?
I have a question! A question, if I might! Who has us? No!
His mic's not working.
I ain't got a...
They're just such a complete and utter delight of a family. Which me of like 10 years ago never would have imagined that I would be thinking something like that. All right, now where'd I go here? Okay. I regret to inform you guys that women, from Woman Definer, how much do you think that this woman spent on a free-framed family photo that she won in a raffle on Facebook? What do you think she spent on that free-framed photo? If you guys have seen this already, don't spoil it. Any of you who've seen it, don't spoil it. You will never guess. You will never guess how much she spent on a free-framed photo.
But I really value the pictures that we got. I really do.
How much did you spend on how many pictures?
So, yeah, hold on to your seat.
My credit card, I know that much.
Okay, I had to split it onto 2 cards.
Oh my death!
What do you had to split it?
You
didn't even know?
I had to split it onto 2 different cards because of the full amount.
Wait, we maxed out my credit card, and that wasn't even the full payment.
And the city card.
We didn't even have the city card for that long. How did we max it out so quick? How much was it?
So we have 3 framed pictures, and we also got all the digitals.
Okay, you have 3 framed pictures. How much did you spend?
Over $7,000.
Wait, how?
Over $7,000.
Oh,
how many digital photos? How many digital photos?
The digital?
Yes.
That's why I needed your card when I paid for them.
Yeah, half, apparently, only half.
19.
19 digital photos and 3 framed photos for $7,000. Yo, if you're getting put out of work by AI, it sounds like photography is popping. Get yourself into photography. Holy crap on a cracker. You know, I am extraordinarily blessed that my wife, if I was to do something like this, my wife would literally remove my limbs from my body. My wife would kill me. She would absolutely destroy me. I have a special one. This is, yeah, she says you wouldn't have a wife. I cannot imagine. How do these people live? How do you get to this point? How are you possibly maxing out credit cards behind your husband's back for photos? And then even more than that, how are you not just disappearing to another state or something? You're going on a show with millions of viewers to go tell him, to break the news to him then. This dude, this poor guy. This poor guy, where is he? The dude on the iPad. This bastard here. Brother, you done fucked up, sir. You don't have anybody else to blame. Where'd he go? Right here, this guy. This poor bastard has nobody to blame but himself. He is learning a very, very hard lesson, man. Holy crap. Shout out to Woman Definer for giving us the regular updates from the financial audit shows. He should be legally permitted to use the old methods on her for this. He literally me. We're watching girl math numbers that are frankly unprecedented. I can't even imagine how you could wind up spending $7,000 for something like that. She doesn't know how to say no. That's what it is. Some salesman worth his salt got a hold of her, and she doesn't know how to say no to someone. Yeah, the rule of thumb. That's right, Agitprop Master. So I guess they advertise it as a free framed photo, and the photo is free, but the frames are not. If I'm understanding correctly here, that's just bananas. All right, Patriot Peanut. Here's our Patriot Peanut. This guy's starting to show up around here a lot, isn't he? He cooked a viewer who said the USA is a joke. This is what I want to see from my American commentators, from my American entertainers, of all shapes and sizes, of all forms. I want to see complete, unabashed, chauvinistic Americanism.
USA is a joke. Buddy, we got a flying black Dorito worth more than the entire GDP of your country that could flatten your shit before you blink. USA is a disappointment. Hold on, sir. Let me cook this third world guy. I guarantee you we've got homeless people on the streets of LA living in tents with a newer iPhone than your president. USA, USA, back to back with what you mean! Fuck you.
The Nutrient. That's right, the Nutrient, man. A flying black Dorito. Give me all the American chauvinism in the world. This is what our athletes need to sound like. This is what our actors need to sound like. This is what our politicians need to sound like. This is when America is at its best. Hold on, let me cook this third worlder here for a second. One of the most popular streamers, by the way. They're multiplying now. We've got Asmongold. We got the Burnt Peanut. There's two of them. Okay, this one here. Is Cheeky still in here? Yeah, Cheeky's still in here. You sent this one to me at the end of the show last night. I already had it queued up for today. From the great Jay Dyer. We Was Kangs and Queens by Jay Dyer. Featuring Candace with a Q and the Players Brigade.
They stole some Sumerian technology that allowed them to predict outcomes, and that technology stopped working in 2012. We're going to get into that tomorrow. I find it to be fascinating. I wonder if they saw Charlie Kirk.
Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
But the Dark Ages was a time when black people ruled Europe. So when you go into the real history, you'll see King James was...
That's King James right there. That's James LeBron. That's King LeBron right there.
Black, he was not a white guy. You'll see his whole lineage of kings.
Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion. Black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
Who was a homosexual himself, who was in love with his sister Lucretia, who they made the image of Lucretia to be Mary. And that became the Renaissance era.
Lucretia. So hold on, you telling me Lucretia? That's a black name right there. How you gonna say that the people that was framing the black people were also black? That don't make no sense. Lucretia is a black as hell name. Lucretia. The church even allowed it, you know what I'm saying? The church allowed for straight pimping. But that have been suppressed. Listen to my brother. In the 1500s, it was legal to be a pimp. black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion, black kings, black bishops, black players, people of the chocolate persuasion.
Tremendous, man. Like, how many views does this have? Only 105,000? Come on. I'm sure this thing's got to be doing crazy numbers if it's on TikTok or Instagram. Have any of you guys seen this one on? I know a number of you guys had seen it already. Have you guys seen that one on the other platforms? Report in from the wild. We're here nice and cozy at home on X, but report in from the wild and let me know if that's doing numbers out there. Okay, I got a couple more of these just for the fun of it. Kirkinator. Goy Corp. Goy fiction soon. Please tell me, Kirkinator, that this is actually going, like, we're going to get a full-length version of this. Imagine that. It's going to happen eventually. Something like this is going to get turned into a full-length adaptation of the actual original film, of whether it's Pulp Fiction or whatever other film. Someone is going to do it. Someone is going to do it, and it is going to go crazy. It's going to do insane numbers. Here's another one from Slopgate Films, Fent Club. And I love it that it's Goy Corp and Slopgate that are at the cutting edge of exploring the new AI video technology.
For 6 months, I couldn't sleep. With insomnia, nothing's real. Everything's far away. Everything's a copy of a copy of a copy.
People are basically doing, they're actually like producing in full-on AI film mode what we've been doing here with the pseudowaves for a long time. We've been ahead of the curve. And this one here is just I mean, when I scroll past this and I hear Kirkified Lourdes Ultra Sus 67, I can't not play it on the lake.
Kirkified Lourdes Ultra Sus 67.
Oh, look, listen to these damn Jews. Send this video to nigga. Epstein fuck niggas.
God, we live in the best timeline. Truly incredible things. Just random stuff going around on TikTok now. I don't know, this is like a Hispanic couple listening to Epstein fuck niggas. That drop goes really hard. Okay, so let's get into some little more serious stuff here. So I've talked here on the show before about my my thesis about how Honktavious Thank you, friend. Appreciate the kicks. Hogtavius McGee in the chat. I've talked about my thesis about, as our friend from the Discord here says, Matt, I've given a lot of thought to your theory that America is more Latin Anglo than traditional Anglo culture. And I basically had this thesis. Like, you hear a lot of people talk about how America is a WASP nation, or it's an Anglo nation, and they sort of equivocate between WASP and Anglo a little bit, because I think those have they have different connotations. But I mean, obviously Anglo is part of WASP, but Anglo-Saxon, and then a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant is a specific thing. But my sort of operating thesis is that America, especially with respect to either Scandinavia or the UK or even like Germany, that America has much more of it's leaned much more in the Latin direction of the sort of broader European traditions, and it's kind of a hybrid. This is something I've been sort of theorizing about for a while. And he says, English civilization was heavily shaped by Latin, mostly via French. English history for our purposes begins with the Anglo-Saxons, a Germanic people who arrived on the island, displaced the native Britons and Roman remnants. In that early period, Old English looked and read quite similar to other Germanic languages, think modern German. Then came the Norman conquest. The Normans, originally Viking settlers in northern France, spoke a form of Old French. Normandy, of course, is where they got their name, as World War II history reminds us. After 1066, they conquered England and imposed their rule. For a couple of centuries, England nearly disappeared from elite use. The nobility spoke French, the church used Latin, and common people spoke an evolving mix of Old English. That layering is a big reason modern English feels so chaotic and rule-breaking. Everyday, basic words tend to be Germanic, e.g. house, eat, good, while more formal, abstract, or fancy ones are often French or Latin in origin, e.g. residence, consume, or excellent. Overall, estimates put the modern English vocabulary at roughly 25 to 30% Germanic roots, with French and Latin, or Romance sources, making up around 50 to 60% or more. Though in everyday speech and core vocabulary, Germanic elements still dominate. So, the French and Latin sources make up around 50 to 60% of the total modern English vocabulary, but when it comes to actual usage in common everyday speech, it's much more Germanic. Some linguists even argue that the Germanic side enables more direct, concrete thinking, while the Romance/Latin side supports greater abstraction and nuance. I agree with you that American culture diverged further in that direction compared to Britain, leaning more toward the Latin side for greater dynamism, energy, and openness to change. At the same time, the underlying Germanic foundation, pragmatism, individualism, and stability, still provides a grounding that sets the U.S. apart from purely Latin-influenced neighbors to the south. I thought this is a really interesting... I didn't know this detail about... I knew the origins of English, and there's the Germanic side and the Romance side, but I didn't necessarily know this part about the overall vocabulary being more from Romance sources, but the actual usage of that vocabulary is still leaning much more heavily Germanic. But this was the part here, I think, that American culture diverged further in that direction compared to Britain, leaning more toward the Latin side for greater dynamism, energy, and openness to change. I think this is something that's almost self-evidently true when you compare British people to American people. And it's like, I remember growing up being in junior high school, and into college in the 2000s and the aughts, and traveling both down to Mexico, down to Central America, and then around in Europe and out to Turkey. I spent time in all those different places, and spent a while in Italy. And I remember going over there and being the way I was perceived as an American. These like sort of mouth breather Yankees that are just totally completely insufferable and chaotic, and they go around breaking everything everywhere they go, and they don't know how to respect polite upper class society. And And so it was like Americans were kind of the retard younger brothers who were really big and strong and powerful, but they were kind of a bunch of meatheads. This was the general perspective from European people toward Americans. But then going down into Central America, I never made it to South America, but I went to Central America. And there, they saw Americans as their perspective towards Americans was like, well, number one, I had a number of different people who asked me if I had a helicopter, because they just assumed since I was from America that I must own a helicopter. This was like kids. I was worked in an orphanage for a little while, and then went around, did a bunch of concerts and everything. So a lot of kids would come up and ask us questions about instruments and everything. And so they would assumed that Americans were they sort of had this posture toward us that was like, you're much more civilized than we are. You're like civilized and wealthy, and they desperately craved American attention. They wanted you to pay attention to them. They wanted to like show off for you. They wanted the like adulation of Americans, to like respect them and think they're cool and awesome and all that sort of thing. These experiences were they were pretty formative in my own self-perception as an American. That the Europeans are a little more like very more standoffish and kind of aloof, and they look down on Americans. They sort of maybe have like a begrudging appreciation for crazy, insane things that Americans can do, but they mostly just find us kind of unpredictable, and they're uncomfortable around us. And then the neighbors to the south were obsessed with America. And so I think that, like, obviously Europe is not one whole. It's famously rather factional. So there's not one single whole defining mentality there of like European. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to think or talk about it. But clearly American is something very, very different from European. And I think it's the ways that it is different are different much more in the Latin direction, almost as if much of that Latin influence is sort of being drained out of Europe. And obviously I don't live in Europe and I'm not in there all the time, but this is kind of the way that I perceive it, as America has kind of absorbed that Latinness, which is kind of like America's the new Rome. This is, that's not I don't think that's crazy to think about. But thank you to the friend from the Discord who wrote that out. I thought those were really interesting. And it actually tied in with something else here that this is several days ago. I've been sitting on this for a little bit, but I, every once in a while, I like to play around with Grok and just, I'll take a long time to come up with this like really long sort of nuanced prompt. And then sometimes I know exactly what Grok is going to say, but I want to it's kind of like I want to poke it, like, hey, do something here. Just let me throw a bunch of stuff at you and see how you handle it. See what you do with it. And so in this case, I said, tell me a story where the United States is actually an emergent imperial power, building itself through a return to the American system of political economy, over against the waning colonial powers of Europe as the largest colony to finally attain full sovereignty. Which means the proper way to evaluate its political and economic trajectory is as the largest emerging market the world has ever seen, with the largest store of physical, geographic, intellectual, and political assets the world has ever seen that have only barely been tapped due to centuries of colonial, financial, and militaristic meddling. Think in terms of cycles closer to millennia than centuries. Don't over-index on approved mainstream sources, but make the story correspond to the available facts as closely as possible. And this was kind of sparked by thinking about this. Like, you have the category of emerging markets, and there's characteristics of emerging markets where you like interest rates are higher, and there's more volatility, but there's also a lot of speculative capital that kind of flows in, and because the fact that it's emerging means sometimes they can like really accelerate as they sort of catch up to whatever the established industrial baseline is. And I was like, there's a lot of characteristics of like particularly the debt profile of the extant treasuries right now. The distribution of interest rates is actually kind of similar to an emerging market. And I was like, what if America actually is an emerging market? Meaning, like, we think of America as being this, like, it's like fully arrived, fully industrialized. It's a fully, sophisticated, advanced, modern economy. But what if you compare America's current state to its theoretical capacity relative to everything else's current state relative to their actual capacity, then could it be that America is actually right now an emerging market relative to its theoretical capacity? And so the proper way to look at America is not that like, oh, these things that make it look like an emerging market are signs of lack of health. They're actually signs of this roiling, stirring, bubbling energy that is characteristic of the emerging market that's just about to take off and explode in growth and productivity. So yeah, exactly, Logan, Texas. What if that initial development was just newbie gains? There's a great way of framing it up. What if all of the development that America has had to this point is just newbie gains? And now we're starting to actually fully develop. We've been going through I think it's hard for people to think in terms of cycles of centuries. Where like each cycle is centuries long, where you kind of have to take a millennial perspective on everything. Not millennial in terms of the millennial generation, but you have to look back and view the crests and the falls and everything on a scale of 1,000 years or more. It's very difficult for the mind to model something like that, but I think there's something to this. So here is the result, the answer that Grok gave me, and it's interesting because I said, "Tell me a story where yada 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 yada," and so Grok literally told me a story. I wanted it to sort of like talk about it, but it just literally told me a story. But I was like, this is actually kind of interesting. So it says, in the shadowed annals of human ambition, where empires rise like tidal swells over millennia rather than the fleeting centuries of historians' charts, there lies the tale of a colossal awakening. Picture the world not as a patchwork of nations bickering in the short breadth of modern geopolitics, but as a vast organism pulsing through cycles of dominance and decay, spans akin to the 1,000-year rhythms that saw Rome gestate for metallic tribes, swell to devour the Mediterranean, and then fracture under its own weight, only for its fragments to seed new powers. In this grand cycle, the land now called the United States emerges, not as the self-proclaimed beacon of liberty it parades in textbooks, but as the mightiest colony ever forged, a sleeping giant forged in the crucible of European avarice, now stirring to claim its imperial mantle through a quiet revolution of economic sovereignty. Our story begins in the mists of the late 15th millennium cycle, when the old world, Europe's patchwork of kingdoms exhausted from their own internal feuds and the slow rot of feudal stagnation, cast greedy eyes across the Atlantic. The Americas, there's a little bit of shitlibbery in here, just a warning. The Americans were no virgin paradise. They teemed with sophisticated civilizations like the Inca and the Aztec, whose engineering and agriculture rivaled anything in Eurasia. But the Europeans, riding the tail end of their own millennial surge from the Renaissance, arrived as plunderers. Spain, Portugal, France, and Britain carved up the New World like a carcass, extracting gold, silver, tobacco, and souls under the guise of divine right and civilizing missions. The northern swath, which would become the 13 colonies, fell to Britain, a mercantilist outpost designed to feed the mother country's coffers. Raw materials shipped east, manufactured goods returned at inflated prices, all enforced by navigation acts that chained colonial trade to London's whims. This was no accident. It was the extension of a colonial pattern echoing back to Phoenician outposts or Roman provinces. Peripheries milked to sustain the core. Where's AOC? Yet in this enforced infancy, seeds of defiance took root. By the 18th century, as Europe's powers waned under the weight of endless wars, the 7 Years' War bleeding treasuries dry, the colonies chafed. Independence in 1776 was no mere rebellion. It was the first fracture in a millennial shift, the largest colonial holding ever to wrench free. But sovereignty was illusory at first. The young republic, vast in land but sparse in industry, remained ensnared in Europe's financial web. British banks dictated terms, French alliances came with strings, and the lack of internal cohesion left it vulnerable. Enter the visionaries. Alexander Hamilton, sensing the cycle's turn, proposed a system to bootstrap the nation from colonial vassal to self-sustaining power. His reports on manufactures laid the groundwork for what Henry Clay would later christen the American system of political economy. A triad. A triad. I don't know why. Oh, triage. My brain thought triage and I said triad. A triad of protective tariffs to shield nascent industries, a national bank to stabilize currency and credit, and federal investments in infrastructure like roads, canals, and later railroads to knit the continent together. This was no liberal free trade fantasy. It was imperial alchemy transmuting raw potential into dominance. Tariffs walled off European dumping, allowing American factories to bloom, from Pennsylvania's iron forges to New England's textile mills. The national bank, reborn after Jeffersonian resistance, funneled capital inward rather than letting it leak back to London or Paris. And the internal improvements conquered geography itself. The Erie Canal in 1825 linking the Great Lakes to the Atlantic, slashing transport costs and unlocking the Midwest's agricultural bounty. This system echoed ancient precedents, the Han Dynasty's Silk Road investments or the Roman aqueducts, but on a scale unprecedented, harnessing a continent's rivers, mountains, and plains as assets untapped for centuries under colonial neglect. As Europe's empires crested and cracked, Napoleon's fall in 1815 marking the end of their revolutionary fervor, followed by the slow bleed of colonial holdings in Latin America, the U.S. expanded westward under Manifest Destiny, a polite term for imperial ingestion. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled its size, acquired not through conquest, but shrewd diplomacy amid France's desperation. Texas, California, the Oregon Territory, each annexation absorbed resources that Europe could only dream of. Endless arable land, gold in California rivers, timber in the Pacific Northwest, coal in Appalachia. But colonial meddling lingered like a ghost. British financiers backed southern cotton plantations, perpetuating slavery as an economic crutch that stunted industrialization. European powers meddled in the Civil War, hoping to splinter the Union and reclaim influence. Yet the war's end in 1865 accelerated the American system. Lincoln's Republicans imposed higher tariffs, chartered transcontinental railroads, and homesteaded lands, transforming the fractured republic into an industrial behemoth. By the turn of the 20th century, as Europe's millennial dominance frayed, culminating in the suicidal frenzy of World War I, the U.S. had morphed into the world's largest emerging market. Its assets were staggering. A population exploding from immigration, intellectual capital from universities like Harvard and nascent labs birthing Edison's inventions, geographic buffers of 2 oceans shielding it from invasion, and political flexibility in a federal system that allowed experimentation. Centuries of colonial interference had suppressed this. British sabotage of early manufacturing, European loans that indebted the nation post-independence. But now, unshackled, it surged. Steel production overtook Britain's by 1900. Oil gushed from Texas fields. Ford's assembly lines revolutionized labor. The American system, intermittently applied through protectionist eras like the McKinley Tariff, built resilience against Europe's waning grasp. World War II sealed the shift. Europe's powers, exhausted from 2 global conflagrations, decolonized in waves. India in 1947, Africa in the 1960s. While the U.S., unscathed on its soil, emerged as lender of last resort via the Marshall Plan. But this was no altruism. It was imperial positioning, rebuilding Europe as a market for American goods while containing Soviet influence. Domestically, the system evolved. Eisenhower's interstate highways echoed Clay's canals, NASA's space race tapped intellectual reserves, and trade policies protected key sectors. Even as globalization tempted free trade dalliances in the late 20th century, the core impulse remained. Subsidies for tech in Silicon Valley, energy independence pursuits, and military-industrial complexes that projected power without overt colonialism. In our millennial lens, the 21st century reveals the U.S., not as a declining hegemon, but midway through its imperial ascent. Challenges like debt and inequality are mere growing pains, echoes of Rome's Punic Wars or China's warring states. The vast stores, Alaska's minerals, the shale revolution's energy, biotech innovations from untapped genomes, and a political system resilient to shocks, remain barely scratched. European relics, now diminished to regional players, watch as their former colony builds alliances, not through conquest, but economic gravity. Supply chains rerouted homeward, tariffs on Chinese imports reviving manufacturing echoes of the American system. And so, the giant awakens fully. In this cycle, spanning from Columbus's sails to quantum horizons, the United States claims its throne. Not as conqueror, but as the sovereign empire that outgrew its makers, forging a new world order from the ashes of the old. The story unfolds still, a testament to patience in the face of millennia. Okay, and then I replied, "Excellent. Now respond to the same prompt, but from a more analytic or academic perspective with less narrative flair. The United States is an emergent imperial power, an analysis through long-cycle political economy." Introduction. This analysis reframes the historical and contemporary trajectory of the United States, not as a fully realized hegemon or a declining power, but as an emergent imperial entity transitioning from colonial dependency to sovereign dominance. Drawing on the American system of political economy, characterized by protective tariffs, national banking, and infrastructure investments, this framework positions the U.S. as the world's largest former colony achieving full autonomy amid the decline of European colonial empires. Evaluated through millennial-scale cycles rather than centennial ones, the U.S. emerges as the most expansive emerging market in history, possessing unparalleled physical, geographic, intellectual, and political assets that have been underutilized due to prolonged external interference. This perspective aligns with observable historical patterns, prioritizing structural economic dynamics over ideological narratives prevalent in conventional historiography. Historical context, from colonial periphery to sovereign core. The origins of the U.S. trace back to the late 15th century expansion of European mercantilism, part of a broader millennial cycle of Eurasian dominance that began with the consolidation of centralized states post-Mongol invasions and extended through the age of exploration. European powers, particularly Britain, established North American colonies as extractive outposts, enforcing policies like the Navigation Acts from 1651 to 1849 that restricted trade and manufacturing to benefit the metropole. This setup mirrored ancient imperial models such as the Roman exploitation of provincial resources or the Ottoman tribute systems, where peripheries sustained core economies. Independence in 1776 marked the initial break, but economic sovereignty remained incomplete. Post-revolutionary America relied on European capital, with British banks financing infrastructure and French loans burdening the treasury. This dependency persisted into the 19th century, exacerbated by militaristic interventions, such as British support for Native American alliances during the War of 1812 to contain U.S. expansion. The U.S., encompassing vast territories from the Atlantic to the Pacific by mid-century, represented the largest colonial holding ever divested, yet its potential was stifled by external financial controls and internal divisions, including slavery's role in perpetuating raw material exports to Europe. Now remember, this thing I'm observing about the role that slavery played and Britain supporting and promoting slavery in the South for this particular reason, I did not prompt it toward that end at all. I gave it the broad prompt, just tell this story, but make it correspond to the actual facts, and it is inputting that into it. The American system, mechanism for imperial emergence. The American system, articulated by Hamilton in his 1791 Report on Manufactures and systematized by Clay in the 1820s, served as the institutional vehicle for transcending colonial status. Its core components, high tariffs to protect domestic industries, a central bank for credit stability, and federal funding for internal improvements, facilitated industrialization and territorial integration. I would say that it was not a central bank. It was actually a national bank, and there is an important difference there. Tariffs peaking at 48% under the 1828 Tariffs peaking at 48% under the 1828 Tariff of Abominations shielded sectors like textiles and iron from European competition, enabling output growth that surpassed Britain's by the 1890s. The Second Bank of the United States, 1816 to 1836, despite Jacksonian disillusion, modeled subsequent financial institutions that directed capital inward, reducing reliance on London financiers. Infrastructure initiatives such as the National Road in 1811 and the Transcontinental Railroads in 1860s harnessed geographic assets, arable plains, navigable rivers, and mineral deposits previously underexploited under colonial regimes focused on extraction. This system echoed millennial precedents like the Persian Royal Road or Chinese Grand Canal, but on a continental scale, fostering a self-reinforcing cycle of economic growth. By the Civil War's end, Republican policies under Lincoln revived these elements, with the Pacific Railway Act of 1862 and Morrill Tariff of 1861 accelerating industrialization, transforming the U.S. from a debtor nation to a creditor power. European decline facilitated this shift. The 19th century waning of colonial empires, evident in Britain's loss of industrial primacy post-1870 and France's post-Napoleonic exhaustion, created vacuums that the U.S. filled. World Wars I and II further eroded European influence, with the U.S. leveraging its isolation and resources to emerge as the arsenal of democracy, while subtly imposing economic dependencies through mechanisms like the Bretton Woods system of 1944. Conceptualizing the U.S. as an emerging market underscores its untapped potential relative to its scale. Physically, it holds the world's third largest landmass, with resources like shale oil producing 13 million barrels daily by 2023, and rare earths in the Mountain West, barely developed until recent energy booms. Geographically, buffered by oceans and allied neighbors, it avoids the defensive expenditures that drained European empires. Intellectually, institutions from the patent system of 1790 to modern R&D hubs have generated innovations, e.g., the Internet's origins and DARPA projects, yet colonial-era brain drains and espionage delayed full mobilization. Politically, federalism allows adaptive governance, contrasting rigid European monarchies. Centuries of meddling, British capital's role in the Panic of 1837, European backing of Confederate bonds, suppressed these assets, channeling wealth outward. However, resurgent applications of the American system, such as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021 and tariffs under Trump from 2018 to 2020, signal a return to protectionism, positioning the U.S. to capitalize on global supply chain disruptions. In millennial terms, this mirrors transitions, like the shift from Byzantine to Ottoman dominance, circa 1000 to 1453, where accumulated assets propel a new core. The long cycle perspective. Millennia over centuries. Traditional analyses focus on centennial hegemonies. For example, British 19th century or American 20th. But a millennial lens reveals deeper rhythms. Civilizational cycles, as observed in the rise and fall of Mesopotamia from 3000 to 500 BC, or the Maya from 2000 to 1500, 2000 BC to 1500 AD, span 1000 to 2000 years, driven by resource consolidation and technological leaps. The U.S. fits as the culmination of the Atlantic cycle initiated in 1492, outgrowing European progenitors amid their demographic and fiscal declines. Projections suggest sustained growth through asset mobilization, potentially dominating until challenged by Asian cycles, though current indicators, for example U.S. GDP at 25% of the global total in 2023, affirm its ascent phase. Conclusion. The U.S.'s trajectory as an emergent imperial power propelled by the American system against European decline validates its assessment as history's premier emerging market. Its vast underutilized assets, liberated from colonial constraints, align with millennial cycles of imperial succession. This framework, grounded in economic structures rather than moralistic narratives, offers a robust lens for understanding its ongoing evolution. Thank you to the Clanker for providing me a bunch of validation that I very desperately needed, validating my narrative for me. Thank you, Clanker. Okay, what are you guys saying in here? National anthem. Oh, Cheeky's dear diarying in the chat. The Grok Triot. That's right, Zoomer Dylan. Thank you, Grok Triot. Now, some rather big news. I played the video for you guys the other day of the part owner of Manchester United, the 7th richest man in Britain, talking about how remigration is a problem, that we can no longer sustain this invading, occupying force. And he was sort of like, oh yeah, Nigel Farage is fine, but really I think it needs to be an outsider, more of an outsider than Nigel Farage. Well, Interesting timing, because Mr. Rupert Lowe posted this today. I am today launching Restore Britain as a national political party. Join us with this video.
I have chosen to speak to you today from the farm because places like this represent what proper Britain is about. Hard work, responsibility, effort, duty, stewardship. This is the England I know, and this is the England that I love. On a farm, you don't think in election cycles or headlines or polling. You think in seasons. You think in generations, in what you leave behind to those who come after you. And that's why, here on the farm, I am now launching Restore Britain as a national political party. I'm now going to dedicate my life to finding, organising, funding, and providing hundreds of qualified candidates to present to the British people at the next general election. This process has already started, with invitations being issued to patriots in aligned political parties.
Patriots!
Reform, the Conservatives, the SDP, Advance, and more. In local politics, we will work in partnership with localised political parties, such as Great Yarmouth First, that have the best interests of their residents at heart, combining our forces at the next general election. The men and women standing for Restore in that election will not be politicians. I promise you that. They will not be failed ministers. They will not be tainted by failures of the past. They will be from business, from the military, from science, from medicine, from education, from industry, representing real communities up and down the country. Every single one will be from well outside the existing political establishment, and every single one will understand the difficult decisions that need to be taken. Because there are no easy fixes. I'm not going to tell you comforting lies about the condition of our country. I have only ever been honest with the British people, and I will be straight with you now. What is necessary will be incredibly painful. But for the first time in a very long time, voters will have a genuine alternative which is truthful with them about the scale of what now has to be done.
This camera shot here does not need this is, I think this is a poor choice. This is a very awkward, weird camera shot. The lighting is different and everything just kind of looks weird with this angle. Sorry, can't help my brain.
The first priority is to control who comes to our country, and more importantly, who stays in our country. Restore Britain will not just stop mass immigration, we will reverse it. Every single illegal migrant will be securely detained and then deported.
Mass deportations for the Britbongs, boys.
The message will be unrelenting. If you are in this country without our permission, you will be removed. For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive.
For the foreseeable future, far more people must leave Britain than arrive. Look at our limeys, boys. How does it feel? Do we have any limeys in here? And we got the Rue boys. You guys, man, where do we find the Rupert Lowe for Australia?
If a foreign national is unable to speak English, lives in social housing, claims benefits, refuses to work, fails to integrate, commits crime, or even actively hates our way of life and wishes to do us harm, then they must leave or be made to leave. Restore Britain will make our communities safe again for women and children. That I promise you.
Is every single thing he's saying, the only way that it's possible for this video to even exist is because of Donald Trump. I've listened to these guys just whine and complain all the time about how rude and bombastic and insufferable and sloppy and low class Donald Trump is. And the man is not just the vehicle through which Americans can achieve any political wins in our lifetimes. He is the same for any patriot outside the United States. How can someone not recognize this?
If that means millions go, then millions go. We're constantly told that the economy needs vast swathes of low-skilled migrants. We know that's simply not true. What we need is to get millions of healthy Brits back into work. A radical overhaul of how welfare is delivered. Protecting those in genuine need, but not funding healthy shirkers to live off the back of hard-working men and women.
Shirkers might be here.
If you can work, you must work. It really is that simple. Restore Britain will be abundantly clear. If you consistently refuse work, then you will lose your benefits. We will punish indolence, and more importantly, we will reward success. We will provide vast economic incentives for men and women to start businesses, generate opportunities, build wealth, and create self-sufficient families. Standing here today on the farm, I know exactly what it means to deal with energy bills, labor shortages, regulation, unproductive paperwork, planning restrictions, tax, and endless uncertainty. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people.
Holy shit! The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. Eric Prince, where are you, buddy? This man needs a frickin' security team like none other. Everyone protect Rupert Lowe. The state has definitively become the enemy of the people. What's this I'm hearing? I'm hearing about like investing in productive capacity of the people and net negative migration. You almost might suggest perhaps we're getting echoes of perhaps the American system of political economy. But for Britain?
Restore Britain will burn away suffocating taxes on work and enterprise.
Deregulation. Tax cuts, deregulation, investment in infrastructure, and developing the productive capacity of the people, and mass deportations. He's literally running on a British iteration of Trump's platform. You don't get this without Trump. I saw Vivo Cristo Rey said, when we voted for mass deportations, it made it possible in the European mind. And you better believe that the Trump administration is 100% watching this very closely. And if something were to suddenly happen to Rupert Lowe, the Trump administration would absolutely be involved. Post-haste. There would be some trade deals being renegotiated, I suspect. You also know that Elon is definitely wrapped up in this in some way or another.
We will slash unnecessary regulation. We will dismantle bloated quangos and the overbearing HR culture. We must crush parasitic Britain. We will restore long-term, stable, logical policy so that businesses can plan and invest and grow again. But Restore Britain is about much more than numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about who we are as a nation and who we are as a people. Britain is not just an economy. Britain is not just an idea. Britain is not just a passport. Britain is a nation. Britain is a people, our people. And Restore Britain will never allow that to be erased.
Britain is a people, our people. I didn't think it was possible in my lifetime to actually hear this sort of political rhetoric coming out of the across the Atlantic, period.
White males way up. White males have gone through the roof. White males way up.
We will celebrate our Christian heritage and the identity that built and shaped this country. Responsibility, restraint, forgiveness, duty, and fairness. In short, a high-trust society. That will mean defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil.
What?
This is Britain.
What? Okay, hold on a second here. So he starts talking about, he says defending our culture. Then he starts talking about Islam, and I'm like, okay. But then he says Christian values, not Judeo-Christian values. And now he's talking about banning halal and kosher? Oh my goodness.
Defending our culture. That will mean resisting the relentless creep of radical Islam. That will mean banning the burqa, outlawing Sharia law, blocking cousin marriages, and reimposing our Christian-based rule of law. A Restore Britain government would legislate to ensure that no halal or kosher slaughter on British soil. This is Britain, and we will do things our way. This political party now exists for one reason: to restore Britain, to make it a better, safer, and more prosperous place for British men and women to raise their families. It will be difficult, and it will be painful. But I assure you, it is possible. I hope you will consider joining me on this journey and becoming a member of our party. It is our country. It is now our collective responsibility to act. Together, we will restore Britain. Thank you.
I am so frickin' happy. So frickin' happy for our limey boys. So he starts off that video talking about like the importance of building for future generations. This is this is such a new form of political rhetoric in the West that is directly downstream of every political accomplishment that Donald J. Trump has brought us.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
There was one thing there toward the very end. What did he say? Oh, there was a point that he hit throughout the video a number of times where he said, this is going to be really, really difficult. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be painful, but it's going to be worthwhile. This is not like slop political pandering. This isn't like McKinsey consultant curated talking points, boomer politics stuff. This is sincere stuff. This is, dare I say it, high character British politicians. Man, this is going to be a story worth watching. It is going to be very interesting to see how this is received and how the party starts to develop. And the fact that having something pretty transformative potentially in the just the general political scene coming onto the scenes at the same time that we're really close to the death of a king and a new king who's a young person for the first time in like a century is very interesting. I'm so fascinated to see what William does. I'm so fascinated. Like, does he just, continue like business as usual? Or does he decide that he really wants to make a name for himself? These people don't need to believe. You don't need any of these people to like believe in the values or share the values per se. They just need to recognize the incentive for it and decide, you know what, if I do this, this will make me great. I will be looked back upon as someone who totally redefined an era. It'll make me a great man. I am more than happy to have, my own personal frame here. I'm more than happy to have those sorts of politicians or leaders or business leaders or whatever capacity. I don't care if they believe the thing. I don't care if what's going on between their ears. But the fact that we're beginning to see, like the most critical take that you have on this, I think would still leave you with there's a very obvious structural set of incentives that is emerging here that is shifting. It's shifting the frame toward incentivizing people to behave in a noble fashion, even if just for cynical reasons, because you'll be rewarded for doing it, which is just fine. You don't need people to do noble things because it's like from the bottom of the depths of their soul and they just believe in it. No, you want people doing noble things because they're noble things to do and because they're rewarded for doing noble things. Speaking of noble things, the posters are still in control from the White House account. Keeping cool while making America hot again. Auto start stop is officially dead. Boys, the auto start stop, officially dead.
What is that?
Beauty is good. Beauty is good simply because it is beautiful. Beauty is a value. We're going to have hot women, sexy cars. It's all coming back, boys. Shout out to Bog Beef. Look at the dates on this. 7/30/2022. One of our greatest patriots. He says, I am now a single issue voter for deregulating automotive safety and emission standards. March 27, 2023. I will vote for anything on two legs for any race that even mentions something about revoking EPA regulations for automobiles. Well, Bog Beef, it has happened. Lee Zeldin, EPA administrator. In the single largest deregulatory action in U.S. history, President Trump and I are now announcing the repeal of the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding, all vehicle greenhouse gas emission standards that followed, and all off-cycle credits that include the much-despised start-stop feature in vehicles. This action will save over $1.3 trillion in costs. The 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding is where the whole CO2 emissions hysteria came from. This is the thing that's being revoked. Repealed. Here's the details from USA Today. President Donald Trump and his administration. Cheeky.
Why can't I tip 14.88? Weary face emoji.
Well, thank you for the $15. Apparently, for some people, they have to type 14.88 in a separate app and copy it and then paste it into the dollar field. This is just what people have said in the chat. I don't know why it doesn't work. I don't know why you can't just type 1488, but that's what other people have said. But thank you for the $15 anyways. How about give you one of these?
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. Well, you must be a high IQ person.
President Donald Trump and his administration have rescinded an Obama-era scientific finding on climate change that has served for nearly 2 decades as the legal underpinning for regulations targeting man-made greenhouse gases. The February 12 repeal of the EPA's endangerment finding delivers a major blow to American efforts to address a global problem. What does it mean? It means greenhouse gases emitted from vehicle tailpipes are no longer subject to federal regulations. Think about the downstream effects of all of this, man. It's going to get fought. It's going to get fought in the courts, and it's going to take JD getting elected in 2028 for the industry to really go like pot committed on this. But holy crap. We're going to talk about Epstein here in just a little bit. Trump hailed the move at a White House event, calling it the single largest deregulatory action in American history. And he says, I think we can add the words by far, citing the White House projections that the decision will reduce deregulatory costs by $1.3 trillion by lowering the average cost of vehicles. Trump said the repealed finding, quote, had no basis in fact, had none whatsoever, and it had no basis in law. So the finding was signed in 2009 during the Obama administration. There it is! I guess that's how she pronounces A. Thank you, Cheeky. You're a patriot, sir. Where are we at? We're at 160, 264 out of 400, so we're actually at close to 180. We're almost halfway there. Let me just double check over here and see if there was anything that came through that I missed. No, not that I see. If anybody has sent anything via Cash App or Venmo, do me a favor and let me know in the chat, and I'll add that to the total. The findings, signed in 2009 during the Obama administration, stated that current and projected concentrations of 6 key greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, quote, threaten the public health and welfare of current and future generations. A related EPA finding, signed in tandem, singled out new motor vehicles and engines as contributors to greenhouse gas pollution. It's crazy to me that this was only 2009, because this seems like it's been so long. It's been like a fixture for as long as I can remember. The revocation is a boon for the fossil fuel industry, and it marks the most sweeping step the Trump administration has taken to roll back federal regulations targeting climate change, which Trump regularly mocks as a hoax and a con job. So true, Mr. President. The president has also withdrawn the U.S. from global efforts via the UN to fight climate change that dated back to the George H.W. Bush administration. The endangerment finding provides the basis for the EPA's authority to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act. But with its elimination, the Trump administration is effectively wiping out these regulations. So every downstream regulation from that original finding are now effectively repealed themselves. So any regulation the EPA has begun enforcing over the past 17 years that is pursuant to that original finding is now unenforceable. The EPA, quote, would lack statutory authority to regulate emissions based on global climate change concerns under the Clean Air Act, the EPA wrote in a proposed rule first submitted in August 2025 to rescind the finding. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, speaking alongside Trump, accused the Obama administration of embarking on, quote, an ideological crusade by enacting the endangerment finding in 2019. He said it, quote, set off the most costly regulatory power grab our country has ever experienced and, quote, strangled entire sectors of the U.S. economy, including the auto industry. No longer will automakers be pressured to shift their fleets toward electric vehicles that are still sitting unsold on dealer lots all across America, Zeldin said, arguing the Obama and Biden administrations used the finding to, quote, steamroll a left-wing wish list of costly climate policies. What do environmentalists say? I don't care. What do environmentalists say?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care.
Does the move undermine science?
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care.
I think that was the gist of it here. Today's action appropriately ends the previous administration's EV mandates, which effectively banned new gas-powered vehicles and represented a clear case of regulatory overreach at the expense of American consumers, said Dustin Meyer, the American Petroleum Institute's Senior Vice President of Policy, Economics, and Regulatory Affairs. After the rule was first publicized last summer, the EPA received more than 570,000 public comments regarding its decision and posted about 30,000 of those on the federal docket. Farming groups such as the Texas Vegetable Association also supported the decision, saying it would lower prices that directly benefit both growers and consumers. Eliminating the endangerment finding will, quote, relieve Texas growers of burdensome expenses, restore competitiveness, and ensure reliable movement of fresh produce across supply chains, wrote Jed Murray, the association's government relations director. And that's another. This is another thing. If you're talking about greenhouse gas emissions and so greenhouse gas emissions, the relationship that they have to vehicles and to like vehicular transportation. This is kind of akin to the way that gas prices going up can create money.
V8's incoming.
Hell yes. Hell yes. Is we gonna get V8s again? Please, please give us some kick-ass V8s again. In the same way that having that like gas prices cause every single step in the supply chain to increase in cost, removing greenhouse gas emissions regulations is going to reduce costs along every single step along the supply chain as well. So you're going to have a lot of like food and basically every other thing that gets transported is going to have one of its inputs. The cost is going to start reducing from that. I know that the EPA has fired a lot of people already, and I'm sure they're going to fire more after this, which is going to make it even harder for those things to be enforced. Now, there's going to be lots of lawsuits. There's a chance that this may wind up always like going all the way to the Supreme Court. Chinky! Woohoo!
We're gooping, la 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 la.
We gooping up in here. Thank you, Chinky. Yeah, I suspect this is probably going to wind up going to the Supreme Court. They're going to have to rule on it in some capacity, I would imagine. And like I said, it's going to take time for the industry to truly embrace it, because like they don't want to be like, okay, great, everything's all fine and dandy now, and readjust their own development projects and everything, and then suddenly Democrats take the House or Democrats take Congress, and then Democrats take the executive, and they bring everything back again. So it's going to take a little while to really get this to stick, but oh yes, yeah, baby, V8 Toyota Land Cruisers for the boys. Please give this to me, Mr. President. Mr. President, if you can hear me, sir.
Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us. Adolf Hitler, if you can hear me, please save us.
Speaking of our president, Siraj Hashmi says, please, miss, just once, Mr. President. Every once in a while, he's got to come back out here and remind us that he's still got it and he's never going to lose it.
All of the equipment you need. We're also purchasing 30 new and modified Abrams tanks. Still the best tank, right? Still? It was named in honor of Stacey Abrams.
The
Only a few
N-word.
Political people would understand that. Congratulations. Thank you very much for a great name, Stacey. But brand new.
How does he do it? Thank you for a great name, Stacey.
Shut up, silly woman.
Some of these women, they're so stupid.
You filthy Democrat!
Also, regarding Minnesota, I see lots and lots of blackpilling about how Trump backed down. Taco Trump. Trump always chickens out. Because you know what really defines the most based right winger is the guy who can pick up fucking Blue Anon memes and run with them. That's how you know you're really dealing with a patriot. When they start using all the left's memes. The black pill merchants are trying to frame what happened in Minnesota as a retreat. Because the fucking black pill merchants are now ideologically committed to bad things happening. They want bad things to happen because they'd rather be right than have good things happen. Fortunately for us, we have the great and glorious Giga Jew.
The corrupt Attorney General Keith Ellison in Minnesota
The N-word.
an edict unlawfully requiring all jails and prisons in the state to shield, harbor, and conceal criminally illegal aliens from ICE. And so with this agreement, those jails and those prisons are no longer going to obey the unlawful edict issued by Keith Ellison. Instead, they're going to follow federal law, the supreme law of the land, and hand over those criminally illegal aliens. But let's just take a moment to celebrate the fact that because of President
Just to put a fine point on that, what they want you to believe is Trump backing down is actually Keith Ellison getting his ass blown out by the president. Now tell me, why would a base right-wing patriot want to obscure the fact that fucking Keith Ellison, dirty communist, just got his ass blown out by the president. Why? Like, what would motivate someone to want you to believe that?
Trump, because of ICE, because of Border Patrol, thousands of pedophiles, rapists, gangbangers, killers, murderers.
I love how he says gangbangers.
The true, most violent people on the planet have been removed from the state of Minnesota. Kids are safer, families are safer, communities are safer. There's a reason why murder in this country is the lowest rate on record. There's a reason why we have seen the largest ever reduction in violent crime. It's because President Trump has unleashed federal law enforcement, including ICE, including Border Patrol, to find, identify, remove, or incarcerate the drivers of violent crime in this country, and now thousands of lives are being saved as a result.
Does that sound like someone that you would describe as covering for pedophiles? This is the administration that covers up pedophilia, that wants to enshrine and protect pedophilia. Meanwhile, they're busting child sex trafficking rings and arresting child sex traffickers at a legendary rate. Perhaps we don't tune out and go full retard here. Perhaps we can recognize that if you are genuinely concerned about the problem of sex trafficking, of children being abused, that literally the only person in my lifetime who has occupied the Oval Office, who has prioritized that, who has set his administration toward rescuing children, is the man who is in the White House right now. You cannot tell me on one hand that you care about victims of sex trafficking, and on the other hand, say that Trump is promoting pedophilia, or that the only solution here is we all got to tune out and kill ourselves and let liberals win elections so we can save the kids or something like that. That's right. My president hates perverts. Where is that one? I've got so freaking many here. I wonder if I could show you guys this. This is the, oh, damn it. No! Adjusting resolution. I hope that didn't just break things. Regret. Okay. There. So every single one of these is a soundboard sound. So when I've got to find one, I've got to look through here. And I've got some of them basically memorized where they're at, but I haven't used the irrelevant pervert one in a while. And now I can't find it. Where did I put it? Oh, I can do this one. Oh, there it is.
Get that ugly, disabled freak away from me. I don't want to look at his fucked up face. His smushed in, garbled, baby, disabled face. I don't want to look at it.
No thanks, irrelevant pervert. What a fag.
Okay, so another. I need a picture chart like a McDonald's cash register. Yeah, right. I wouldn't be able to fit it on here. And I've still got a list of like a dozen others that I need to add to this. They just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It is pretty cool because I can just drag the file and just drag it down there and they automatically adjust and it just opens up a new tile where I can drop one there. But yeah. Yeah, there's a lot here.
Stupid? Are you a stupid person?
You sacks of shit don't look like you can play table.
That one is for Amy. Okay, so SAVE Act. Big news. The SAVE Act has passed the House, and now, we have 50 guaranteed votes because Senator Susan Collins, a rhino from Maine, is a yes, or a yay, on the Save America Act. This is for voter ID. It requires voter ID to vote. We are now at 50 guaranteed votes. With J.D. Vance, that's enough to pass it after a talking filibuster. So, the talking filibuster that they're apparently the way this is going to proceed is they're going to force Democrats to literally filibuster by talking on the floor of the Senate. to just talk and talk and talk, and they have to go nonstop. Talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and then bring someone else up to talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and they have to keep talking until they run out of things to talk about. And once they do, then they can vote to pass it. And JD Vance can break the tie. Now, there's still potentially other Republicans. There's still 3 others that, in theory, you might be able to induce along with Susan Collins. And there's the possibility that someone like Fetterman could choose to vote for it as well. So there's the possibility they might just be like, yeah, now it's looking really bad that we've got, like, if it comes out that Lisa Murkowski and Tom Tillis and Mitch McConnell, for whatever reason, they decide, yeah, we're going to vote for it as well. Or like 1 or 2 of them and Fetterman all say, yeah, we're going to vote for it as well. Then having Democrats sit there and filibuster, preventing a bipartisan bill from being passed to secure elections on an issue that's like 95.5 in the general population is going to be brutally catastrophic politically for the Democrats. I never thought that this was going to happen anywhere near this early in the year. I thought that there was a possibility that it might actually happen, that it might get passed. But my suspicion was it wasn't going to get passed until like late in the summer. And basically it would be a really big gamble to see whether it was actually going to take effect or anything. But I wanted to play this clip of Susan Collins being interviewed on this. This is from Lindell TV, because there's a couple interesting things she says in it.
Now that the Save America Act has passed the House, can we count on you to support it in the Senate?
I'm looking at it. The House made some significant changes. For example, you would not have to prove citizenship every time you vote. That's a good change. Makes sense to have a requirement the first time when you register, but not every time.
So she's talking about proving, like, having citizenship documents, not just a driver's license, but having citizenship documents that you would have to bring every time for every time you vote. Like, you would have to bring your passport, or you'd have to bring like your birth certificate and some other sort of ID or something along those lines every single time that you vote. So part of this is that you have to prove you're a citizen to register to vote, and then you have to bring ID with you when you vote.
I've long supported voter ID. There's some issues on what.
Yeah, she's got like this shaky voice thing. I don't know if it's like Parkinson's or something. I'll look it up.
What are federal and what are state? So I'm still this is a work in progress, but I've got to go to the health committee.
Thank you. Now that the Save America Act has passed the House, can we count on you to?
I see you guys horning out over the reporter. I said, does Susan Collins have Parkinson's? Spasmodic dysphonia? Let's see. Can I provide, after listening to it, I can offer a position. I'm not a physician. Yeah, okay, fucking tell me what you want to say. Unlikely to feeling the voice. Although her voice seems to tremble slightly, it does not show, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that was like, jeez. This guy wrote 6 paragraphs to say that it does not appear that she has spasmodic dysphonia. And he like says, I'm not a physician and I have not personally assessed her like 5 different times. Yeah, I don't know what the issue is with her voice, but one thing that there's this big effort going on right now to primary her. You know, she's a rhino, and she is. She's absolutely a rhino. However, she is a Republican in Maine. The odds that she is going to be replaced with another Republican in Maine are extremely, extremely slim. My guess is that part of the concession that she extracted from the administration in order to pass this is that they're not going to support a primary candidate against her. They're actually going to work to retain her seat. And this is what I'm going to throw this link in the chat, or not in the chat, but I'll have this link for you guys in the notes later. a conversation between the guy on the Twitter handle Real Political Data and America First Insight. They did a live stream this afternoon. How good has Trump's first year really been? And one of the things that they talked about was that with some of these people, like, yeah, of course she's a rhino, but you got to think she's a Republican in Maine. And if you're going to replace her, you're very likely not going to replace her with a Republican. So there's a lot of people who see someone like her and they're like, she's a rhino, therefore we need to primary her. But this is like politics on this is like the kids' version of politics or something. This is elementary school politics. You don't need her to not be a rhino. If you can replace her with someone who's a more reliable MAGA candidate, sure, great. But you may not be able to. And it's better to have a disloyal, flaky Republican in that seat than to have a Democrat in that seat. And this goes toward the midterms. I've said many times now. If you believe the Republicans want to flake out and betray you, and that they are sandbagging because they want to lose, because they would rather be in the outer party and be able to raise money campaigning on issues that they never solve, the best way to stick it to them is to vote for them. This should be very obvious. If you go around and you say, oh, well, Republicans want to tank the election, so what we should do is we should not vote for them so that they can successfully tank the election, which is the thing they want to do. This is like the direct corollary of voting for the person because they want to win an election. Not voting for them when they don't want to win is spiritually the same as voting for them when they do want to win. How is this not obvious? Why do we have all these like super smart like election analysis guys who are saying, oh, we have to get rid of the traitorous conservatives by not voting for them, because if we don't vote for them, then they're going to actually learn their lesson and decide to put better candidates up. You can't believe both of these things at the same time. You can't believe both that when they lose, they will put better candidates up, and they want to lose because they'd rather be outer party. Very clearly, if they don't want to win, and you don't vote for them so that they don't win, they're going to continue doing what they're doing. If your issue with the Republicans is that they try to sandbag elections so that they won't win, the worst thing in their eyes that you could do for them is vote for them. Because there are political realities where, like right now, if Trump had had 60 seats in the Senate and 240 seats in the House, he could pass anything he wanted. Because the political pressure would be so immense on all of those squishy fake Republicans that they would have no choice but to vote with the party. They would have to. It doesn't matter what the person thinks between their ears. Doesn't matter what their personal values are. Doesn't matter what their personal foibles are. We have a Congress. Congress is becoming increasingly irrelevant, but in narrow domains, they're extremely relevant. And literally all that matters in the current political environment is, do they have an R next to their name or do they have a D next to their name? If they have a D next to their name, you can put zero political pressure on them. If they have an R next to their name, you could put immense political pressure on them. Now, if the SAVE Act fails, Trump came out today and said that he will sign an executive order mandating nationwide voter ID. This is what he said. We cannot let the Democrats get away with no voter ID any longer. These are horrible, disingenuous cheaters. They have all sorts of reasons why it shouldn't be passed and then boldly laugh in the back rooms after their ridiculous presentations. If it weren't such a serious matter, it would be considered a total joke. No voter ID is even crazier and more ridiculous than men playing in women's sports, open borders, or transgender for everyone. Republicans must put this at the top of every speech. It is a can't miss for re-election in the midterms and beyond. Even Democrat voters agree, 85%, that there should be voter ID. It's only the political leaders, crooked losers like Schumer and Jeffries, that have no shame and explain why it's racist and every other thing that they can think of. This is an issue that must be fought and must be fought now. If we can't get it through Congress, there are legal reasons why this scam is not permitted. I will be presenting them shortly in the form of an executive order. I hope the Supreme Court realizes, as they painstakingly review the very simple topic of country-saving tariffs, those same tariffs that have been used by other countries against the USA to drain it of its treasure and security for many years, and all sorts of other things that are making our country rich, powerful, and safe again, that these corrupt and deranged Democrats, if they ever gain power, will not only be adding 2 states to our roster of 50 with all of the baggage there too, but will also pack the court with a total of 21 Supreme Court justices, their dream, which they will submit easily and rapidly when they immediately move to terminate the filibuster, probably in their first week or sooner. That was a hell of a sentence. Where did that sentence start? I hope the Supreme Court realizes, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines. Our country will never be the same if they allow these demented and evil people to knowingly and happily destroy it. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Save America. President Donald J. Trump. Have you heard of him? An impressive gentleman he is. Look at him. Look at the man. That right there, that is my motherfucking president.
The only acceptable political theory is complete undying loyalty to Donald Trump.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this Epstein thing again. There's this whole issue of Les Wexner's name being unredacted in a bunch of places, but then being redacted in another place. And what we're being led to believe here is that Les Wexner's name is mentioned all over there. Everyone has known about Les Wexner's connection to Epstein and his financing of Epstein for a really long time. But the DOJ very sneakily and evilly, subversively went in and they didn't unredact his name in one spot. They redacted his name in one place because they're trying to cover up for him. Everyone knows that he's been associated with Epstein like this for a long time. And he's unredacted in a whole bunch of other places, but they were trying to fool us. They were trying to trick us by redacting his name in one spot. They were so committed to this trickery that as soon as it was alerted that they'd redacted his name when they shouldn't, in 40 minutes they unredacted it. When was the last, let me just ask you this. When was the last time that you heard about a government agency, a government institution of any type, reacting within 40 minutes to fix something? 40 minutes! And yet we're supposed to believe that this is some big conspiracy so they can cover this up and protect pedophiles. So, Dave Smith has just been calling out big time about this. So it was a complete coincidence that the one time his name was redacted just so happened to be the document that listed him as a co-conspirator on child sex trafficking? Is that actually what you're going with here? I mean, I would say, number one, that there's probably other places where his name was incidentally redacted, and it just doesn't stand out because it's mundane. The reason this one stands out, the reason this looks like it's the only one, is because it's a significant thing. That doesn't mean it is actually the only one. But this whole conversation misses the fact of what this project entailed. And this, again, I kind of harped on this yesterday, and I'm going to say it again, that the libertarian mind, and by this I don't just mean people who call themselves libertarians, but the people who have trapped themselves in this framework, simply don't know how things work. It's really that simple. Like, there's this baseline reality that the whole rest of their worldview is built upon, which is, I don't know how anything works. So I've got a couple of interesting things here about the actual process of redaction. First one here from Deaf Not Darth says, these conspiracies about redactions or lack of redactions for certain files and people in the Epstein files are retarded. Let me explain what happened. They had millions of files to release and a small window to redact and organize them, categorize them, separate them into folders, OCR the text so it's searchable, and more. They had decades of data, dozens of investigations, and many databases. They wrote basic code and ran Python scripts to redact and export various files into categories. Some of the victims were co-conspirators who recruited girls for Epstein. Some investigation files labeled them victims. Some labeled them possible suspects. These women on TV, many of them were in their 20s and never appeared until after he died to make claims and get paid, and many were involved in recruiting girls. Some were genuine victims. They're labeled differently in different file sets. Some of those documents labeled Wexner as a victim because they tried to use him to prosecute Epstein for defrauding him, even though he was labeled as a possible co-conspirator in the sex trafficking investigation. So in one file set, he is a victim, and this is well documented that he accused Jeffrey Epstein of defrauding him and even had, I think it was a lawsuit. I don't remember if it was a lawsuit or a criminal case, but this is on the record that Les Wexner has asserted, reported, and worked with the FBI saying that Jeffrey Epstein defrauded him. So there is an investigation that was opened on the basis that Les Wexner was defrauded by Jeffrey Epstein, making Les Wexner a victim of Jeffrey Epstein in that circumstance. That's not to say he actually is a victim, it's that that's how the files are going to be cataloged. So he is both a victim in one case and a co-conspirator in the investigation in another case. So then how do you redact it? Do you redact it as if he's a victim, or do you redact it as if he's a co-conspirator? Same with some of these so-called victims. In one case, in one part of the investigation, they might be a victim. In another part of the investigation, they might be a co-conspirator because they're recruiting other women, seducing other women to come in and be victimized as well. So is that person a victim, or are they a co-conspirator? They're both. So then how should they be redacted? Should they be redacted as a victim, or should they be unredacted as a co-conspirator? It's a mess, and they automated it in a tight window and with a massive amount of data. Some of the redactions are intentional and manual, of course, but 99.9% of it was purely automated, and nobody was proofreading 5+ million files. I hope this clears that one detail up because it's among the stupider theories being floated. And then, relatedly, here's this guy. He says, here's something else. He either doesn't know how the process works, or he knew and pushed it this way to create errors. He, in this case, being Massie. Because actually, let me back up a little bit. Will Chamberlain said the Trump administration has unsealed millions of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. The latest batch of Epstein victims haven't provided even the names of the people who abused them. And this chick asks, why the redactions then? Matt Brainerd said Massie's own law required victims' names to be concealed, regardless of age, which isn't actually technically correct. This guy says it didn't require it. It permitted the attorney general to redact them if they wanted. And he says, the Una reverse card here says, oh, well, it seems like Massie conspired to cover it up then, since he wrote the legislation that allowed it. Same logic here, by the way. Saying that Massie actually conspired to cover it up because he wrote the legislation that permitted the redactions. This is the same sort of logic that these sultans of wisdom have been treating us to. So Will Chamberlain said Massie's law did two things that basically ensured redaction errors. First, the law he drafted required an enormous amount of redaction work. Second, it put DOJ on a very fast clock to release all the material. That meant an enormous amount of work had to be done in a very short amount of time. Of course there were redaction errors. Anyone who's ever done doc review knows that mistakes happen and that mistakes multiply when lawyers are swamped. And so then this guy says, here's something else. Massie either doesn't know how the process works, or he knew and he pushed it this way to create errors. My guess is the latter, and I can't get away from that. It seems there is no way that I can interpret the full fact pattern here of everything that has happened with Massie over the last year and a half or so that leaves available the option that he is operating in good faith, apart from there's one single story that I could tell myself here where Massie actually is a white hat, and that is he's intentionally playing the heel here. There's been some sort of back channel thing coordinating with the administration, and he's intentionally playing the heel on this for some other purpose. That to me sounds kind of insane. But that's the only thing that I've been able to uncover. And believe me, I have loved Thomas Massie for like 15 years. I have worked hard to try to come up with something that makes sense of all of this, that allows the space for Massie being a good faith actor. I suppose you could also say that after what happened with his wife, he lost his mind and is just, he's going full Harvey Dent or something. I guess that's possible. In which case, yeah, he's a tragic character who must be hung for his crimes. I mean, just because he experienced a tragedy, if he then decides to use that tragedy as a justification for just inflicting harm on a bunch of people and capitalizing on the possibility of a sex trafficking ring to advance his own political career, or just like to get revenge because he's angry and emotional, yeah, it's a tragedy what happened to him, and also he must hang for his crimes. Both of these things can be true at the same time. These are the only things that I've been able to conclude that could possibly justify. Maybe he's got family members in a basement somewhere with a gun to their head. Like, these are the only ways I've been able to try to make sense of the full fact pattern with everything related to Massie over the last year and a half. When he came out and he castigated Trump for that meme about the monkeys with Obama's faces on them that like accidentally autoplayed at the very end of one of his posts, when he castigated Trump for trafficking and racist tropes and demanded that he apologize to Obama, I'm like, this is not a good faith actor. The only possible way he's a good faith actor is if he's some sort of like deep undercover, super patriot white hat playing the heel to run some sort of sting operation thing. That would be the only possibility remaining to me. So this guy says, I spent many years in federal service as a management and data analyst. Follow me here. The time frame was severely flawed, even if you're treating 3 million documents like they're 3 million single-page files that just need a name blacked out. That's not how federal document review works, and Massie had to know this. A document in government production isn't necessarily one page. It can be multi-page PDFs. It can be email chains with attachments, financial records, interview transcripts, grand jury material, and duplicates that are counted separately. Attachments alone can multiply the review load fast. And they weren't just redacting victim names. They would have had to review for things like grand jury secrecy under Rule 6E, ongoing investigative material, sealed filings, law enforcement sensitive information, Privacy Act issues, medical and financial data, potential classified material, third-party privacy exposure. Like, it's like people think that redaction just means like you sit down with a marker and you just like cross off some names or something. But there's all of this stuff. In some cases, they're legally not permitted to unredact the names of someone, even if that someone is strongly suspected of a crime because of something related to grand jury secrecy or because there is an ongoing investigation, which they've confirmed multiple times there are ongoing investigations. And the way these investigations work is if you don't have enough to prosecute, then the case gets put like backburnered essentially, and you try to secure more evidence. So they've been saying, if you know stuff, come forward, give us this information so we can add it to that. So just because they might say, right now, we don't have anything that we can prosecute any further, is not the same thing as saying everything Epstein related has been closed forever and we're never coming back to it again. It's that we don't have anything that we can actually indict for right this moment. Whether it's because we don't have sufficient evidence or because there's more things that we need to do going through the process before we can actually secure the indictment. But if you then take all the investigative material and you just dump it out everywhere, you're guaranteeing, at the very least, that any future prosecutions based on any new information that comes in becomes extraordinarily more difficult to accomplish. This is a massive, massive gift to any defense attorney who might be representing someone who's implicated here. Imagine trying to put together an untainted jury at this point. When there's this mass psychosis witch hunt that has evolved where literally just having your name mentioned in the files is automatically a justification for slandering you across the country. It doesn't have to actually be substantial for it to create the legal pretext for someone to fight it and make it even more difficult and more complicated and more expensive and harder to prosecute. So there's two demands here that are running totally at cross purposes with each other. One of them is arrest and prosecute people. The other one is release all of the files. And then some people have been honest enough to say, oh, I don't expect to get prosecutions. I just want these people to be humiliated. So now you're willing to humiliate and slander and ruin the lives of all of the innocent people just so that you can get your bloodthirst satisfied for these other people who genuinely deserve to have their lives ruined. They deserve punishment. But now our standard is just, fuck it. Just crucify everyone. Crucify them all just to make sure we try to get a few of them. And the thing that we're going to do to crucify them all to try to get the few of them is going to make it even harder to get the few of them. Obviously, there's a bunch of bad faith people out there who are going to come at me, and I've been getting it for the last couple of days. They're going to come at me and tell me that I'm a pedophile protector and I suck Jewish cock. And yeah, bro, you're just confirming to me that this is a total mass psychosis event that was triggered by Thomas Massie and Khanna. And we'll talk more about them in just a moment. And kind of one of my theories about what may be going on here. Let me finish this tweet. So every redaction has to be legally defensible. Oh, yeah. Flicker rate. Thank you, sir.
Let's get you over $200.
Mission accomplished. Thank you for the $10 tip. That puts us over 200. We're at 202.40 out of the 400. Do we have another $197.96 before the end of the show? We're still going to go for a little bit here, so you guys got some time. And reminder, if you came in late, go to forum.kingpill.com. Give me your some way of identifying you and some way of contacting you. You'll get entered into a random drawing so that if we hit the daily tip goal either today or on a future show for the rest of the month, that I will do a random drawing and pick one person on that list and give them their choice of retailer gift card in the amount of 10% of the total tips for the day. Every redaction has to be legally defensible. That means line-by-line review in many cases, documenting the reason for the redaction, supervisory review, quality control, and technical verification that metadata is scrubbed. Then there's the expected error rate. In any production involving millions of documents, there is always an acceptable margin of error. That's why these processes are layered. Things can get over-redacted. Things can get under-redacted. That's precisely why you don't just have one person reading and blacking things out. You have first-level review, supervisory review, quality control sampling, and technical checks. You have to account for human error, interpretation differences, and legal gray areas. So, for example, when you have a person who is a co-conspirator in one case, and they're a victim in another case, well, you're supposed to leave unredacted the co-conspirators, but you're supposed to redact the victims. So this isn't as simple as, oh, well, this person obviously gets redacted or not redacted. Then you have to have a conversation. You have to appeal to different authorities or whomever has to come in and provide a final ruling. Do you unredact this person or do you redact them? This all takes time and it has to be worked out over and over and over and over and over again. They're not expecting perfection from 500 people reviewing millions of files. That's unrealistic, especially in that short amount of time. They're building redundancy into the system to reduce risk, and that slows things down. If this were just find a name and black it out, you wouldn't need layers. But when you're dealing with grand jury material, privacy laws, sealed records, and potentially sensitive investigative information, the risk of getting it wrong is huge. One improper disclosure can trigger litigation, sanctions, or worse. That's the procedural reality. You don't just read it and hit a black marker. That's fantasy land. Reminder, some of these records are sealed. There is grand jury material in here that is sealed or privileged. And so some of the stuff, you have to decide, is this particular thing sealed, or will leaving this unredacted actually effectively unseal it? Given what sort of things you can derive and conclude from this accumulation of data that will leave the outline that reveals this other thing. Everyone's got full retard on what this process actually entails. Also, when they say 500 personnel, that doesn't mean 500 people sitting there reading files 8 hours a day. That number includes supervisors, tech staff, classification reviewers, privilege attorneys, and quality assurance. Government production is workflow-driven and layered. On paper, 117 documents a day per person sounds easy if you assume they're all one page and require no legal analysis. In reality, that's not how the system works. And then Shipwrecked crew here, Bill Shipley, former federal prosecutor, said regarding the Wexner unredaction here, he says 500 different DOJ attorneys were involved in the redaction effort of at least 3 million pages of documents. Do you suppose that one person came along behind all of them to inspect their work and said, oh, need to redact Wexner's name on this one? Or do you suppose all 500 attorneys had an instruction to redact Wexner's name any place that links him to sex trafficking, and those 500 attorneys executed those instructions flawlessly and only redacted him this one time as instructed? Do you ever contemplate how stupid your hypotheses sound? Use a dictionary if necessary. I don't care. I think Dave Smith is a good person. I think he genuinely is concerned about the problem of cannibalistic pedophile rings and does not want cannibalistic pedophile rings. But having good intentions is not a justification for being a retard. It's not a justification for whipping up a mass hysteria. It's not a justification for running roughshod over the rights of innocent people in your desperate thirst to get revenge against the people who disgust you. I don't care what your motivations are. I don't care that you think you're some brave crusader trying to conquer the problem of elite pedophilia. What I'm telling you is that what you are doing is not conquering the problem of elite pedophilia, and it's also hurting a bunch of other people in the process. And you're participating in a mass psychosis that has been formulated, obviously, just for the sake of undermining President Trump and the administration and everything that he's trying to accomplish. And me, personally, and people I love, and the country that I love, will be worse off if that happens to the president. Which means to me then, what you are doing is actively trying to hurt the country that I live in and the people that I love. Yeah, that fucking pisses me off. I'm not interested in burning my country to the ground because of elite pedophile networks. You know what's worse than a country that has elite pedophile networks in it? A country that is bludgeoned and torn apart and ripped to shreds and people are being eaten in the streets. You're concerned about cannibalism? You're concerned about children being hurt? How much cannibalism and children being hurt do you think would happen if the country was to descend into some sort of anarcho-tyranny, communist takeover? I don't give a shit what your motivations are. Doing bad things with good motivations is called evil. So the big scandal that happened today was, it says here from Jacqueline Sweet, she says, Representatives Khanna and Massie pushed the DOJ to unredact a file in the Epstein files. Then Khanna read 4 men's names from it in a House floor speech, calling them, quote, wealthy and powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. So we've been hearing this for months now. We've been hearing that they have a list. They've got a list of names, and they could just go read this list anytime they want. But like, they have to get permission from the victims who were involved in trafficking themselves first. The victims who have been wringing every last little bit of sympathy and cash that they possibly can out of this, while withholding the names of the people who hurt them. Because they really want justice, but they only want justice as soon as they've maxed out all of the political capital and money that they can get out of the system. Then they want justice. So apparently Massie and Khanna can't actually go read these names, but believe me, we've really got those names. And here we go. They sprung on their moment. Look at this. 4 men whose names were redacted. These are wealthy and powerful men that the DOJ hid for no apparent reason. The only problem is that file is an SDNY, Southern District of New York, photo lineup, and the 16 people on it have no known ties to Epstein, the DOJ confirmed. We identified 12 of the people on the list and spoke to 2 of the men Khanna named, who denied any connection to Epstein and were seeking answers as to why their names were in the news. So why were they in that photo lineup? The lineup simply included people apparently arrested for various unrelated crimes over 2 decades in New York City who resembled Maxwell and Epstein. These were random dudes who happened to look like Epstein or Maxwell who were brought in for a photo lineup. Totally innocent, have no association or affiliation with Epstein whatsoever. And now they're going to spend the rest of their lives. Any person who ever searches their name is going to find it associated with Jeffrey Epstein. Because Thomas Massie is on a righteous crusade to avenge the poor children. This is Ro Khanna. 4 men in unredacted files named by Ro Khanna have no ties to Epstein. Ro Khanna, a California Democratic representative, read a list of 6 names of the House floor earlier this week and said they were wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid in the recently released files related to Jeffrey Epstein. After questions from The Guardian, the DOJ said that 4 of the men Khanna named have no apparent connection to Epstein whatsoever, but rather appeared in a photo lineup assembled by the Southern District of New York. Khanna, along with Thomas Massie, a Kentucky Republican representative, pushed the Justice Department to unredact names in the files, arguing that some names were being unlawfully redacted. Massie claimed credit on X earlier this week for forcing the Justice Department to remove redactions on a file that listed 20 names, birthdays, and photos, including those of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Khanna then read some of those names on the House floor. 2 of the 6 men Khanna mentioned are Sultan Ahmad bin Solayam, who has since resigned as CEO of DP World and an Emirati billionaire business person, and Leslie Wexner, a billionaire retail magnate. But the other 4 names did not appear to have any public profile. A spokesperson from the office of Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, Young Boy Bay!
Punish the Panikins.
Yes!
Mulch the Massies.
Yes!
Burn some bagels.
Yes! Thank you, Young Goive. Let's give you one of these.
Yes, hello, it's me, a black guy.
A spokesperson for the office of Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, told The Guardian the file was a photo lineup used for investigative purposes by the SDNY. Quote, Representative Ro Khanna and Representative Thomas Massie forced the unmasking of completely random people selected years ago for an FBI lineup, men and women. These individuals have nothing to do with Epstein or Maxwell, the spokesperson told The Guardian. When contacted for comment on this story and told administration officials confirmed the document was a photo lineup, Khanna posted on X that, quote, I wish DOJ had provided that explanation earlier instead of redacting, then unredacting their names. So they redacted them. You went and chimped out and whipped up a whole bunch of fervor around this. And they unredacted them because everyone's freaking the fuck out about it. And then you realize you went and you fucking read their names on the House floor. Well, but it's the DOJ's fault. They have failed to protect survivors, created confusion for innocent men, and have protected rich and powerful abusers. We must have full transparency and the truth. I would expect this from this guy. I would expect this from a Democrat from California named Khanna. But the fact that Thomas Massie is involved in all this is so fucking nauseating. The Guardian spoke with two of the men whose names Khanna read out on the floor. They both strongly denied knowing Epstein at all. One said he didn't realize his name had been mentioned on the House floor in connection to Epstein until the Guardian contacted him. Imagine this dude is just going through his life. Just doo-dee-doo-dee-doo. And all of a sudden the Guardian calls you and is like, hey, FYI, you were just doxxed on the House floor as an associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Are you involved in child sex trafficking? The two men acknowledged they were arrested by the NYPD in the past for unrelated crimes, which could explain how their photos ended up in a photo array assembled by law enforcement. Which could explain. You think? Salvatore Nuarte of Queens, New York, said he called Khanna's office after hearing his name was mentioned. He says, I don't know if they know what they're doing over there at the Justice Department, but how can I clear my name? So here the Justice Department is taking the heat for this, when this is obviously a sting where the chaos, the confusion is a feature, not a bug. Because the entire reason this whole thing exists has diddly shit to do with elite sex trafficking networks and everything to do with creating a new hoax, just like Trump said, to try to undermine the attempts to make America great again. And if you're not capable of thinking at like this isn't even like a lot of levels. This is like 2 or 3 levels. If you're not capable of identifying that, recognizing that if this was actually about like destroying the elite pedophile networks, that every single congressional Democrat would not have voted for this. Do you think that it's a stretch that Democrats would be willing to congressionally obstruct prosecutions of sex perverts? This is the definition of the party. All the party exists for is to prevent sex perverts from being prosecuted. They've literally been normalizing pedophilia openly for years now. And yet suddenly, literally to a person, every single congressional Democrat signs off on this. Because this effort is actually about justice for the victims? No, these things don't go together at all. And if you think it has anything to do with justice for victims, you're a credulous buffoon. Leonid Leonov, whose name was incorrectly listed as Leonik Leonov in the files. Dave Smith is gay!
Massie and that cheat to Scott.
To Seacott, yes indeed. Thank you, Dave Smith is gay. You're a patriot.
You want to kill the Jews? Every single time.
You want to fight? Better believe you've got one. You want to enslave my spirit? No! And I'll call on God to protect me and use me however God sees fit.
Imagine being fucking doxxed by a representative of Congress. So true, Zoomer Dylan. Imagine that. Yeah, whataboutism actually works with this because we all know it's true. Yeah, so true, Bobby Ballbegs. A couple other guys here. Zurab Mikaladze and Nicola Caputo could not be reached. A spokesperson for Massie responded to a lengthy list of questions by pointing only to a post by Massie on X, clarifying that the Caputo in the files was not an Italian politician with the same name. What a clusterfuck, man. What an absolute clusterfuck. I think that was all that was, let's see. The Justice Department had earlier told CBS News that the 4 men Khanna mentioned were, quote, only included in this one document out of all the files. Wexner is referenced nearly 200 times in the files, and Ben Sulayem appears over 4,700 times. Now, what I am let's talk about some of the, maybe my theory here. So Thomas Massie is well known as a close friend of Ron DeSantis. They were part of the Freedom Caucus together. And Ron DeSantis is making noises about wanting to run for president. So is this about trying to kneecap the Trump administration? Is this an elaboration on intra-Republican attempts to take out J.D. Vance to ensure a Ron DeSantis candidacy? That connection is definitely there. Definitely very real. That's one thing that I could buy. It seems to fit the fact pattern here. There was something else here real quick, just a sec, while I'm still looking at this tab. Oh yeah, Wexner has been well known. Like, some of this stuff has been out for a long time. Oh, the other thing, Bannon. Of all of the people who have been the most pantsed by this whole thing, Bannon's got to be at the top of the list. Yet, curiously, I don't see Thomas Massie talking about him at all. If anything, like the delta between what we did know, like all the stuff with Wexner, this was already known. The other woman, Gwendolyn, I can't remember her last name. Already known. There's like nothing new that has been brought to light about any of these major figures that everyone's really focused on. But Bannon, all sorts of stuff has come out about Bannon. How directly, closely he was working with Epstein. Epstein told him that you need to start a media company as a parallel sort of to what Soros did with the NGOs. He's like, no, an NGO wouldn't work best for you. Actually, if you want to do what Soros does with the NGOs, you'd be better off starting a media company because it's going to give you journalistic privilege and you get your face out there. Bannon very obviously believes, he says explicitly that he sees himself as the actual leader of the MAGA movement and that Trump is in his way as a figurehead. Bannon is the one who got Trump to bring on John Bolton. Bannon has been actively trying to work against Trump. And he was working with Epstein right up until Epstein was arrested. Elon Musk had said last year sometime that Bannon was in the Epstein files and was all over them, he said. Which leads me to another thought. We've talked before about how I've back at when it was happening, I said this whole thing with Trump and Elon about Epstein, where Elon just all of a sudden just like flips the fuck out and says, "Oh, Trump's in the Epstein files." But then a couple months later, it just all gets rolled back and everything's all fine and normal and hunky-dory and everything. It's really seemed like there was some kind of an op going on there. But then Elon has also been very explicit about how Bannon is a gigantic piece of shit, a drunken asshole who's a total pervert and it was deeply implicated in all of this as well. But that's kind of burying the lead a little bit. How does Elon know these things? How does Elon know that Trump was in the Epstein files? How does Elon know that Bannon is all over the Epstein files prior to the Epstein files all being released? Now, it's possible that this is it's sort of like an open secret. He didn't actually know. He hadn't seen the things in the Epstein files, but it's just sort of like an open secret. He knew that Bannon and Epstein were close, so he knew that if all of Epstein's communications were released, that Bannon would obviously be implicated in it. Which, okay, I mean, I could buy that. I don't know, but it definitely gets the old noggin jogging. But there's another thing as well, and here's where things get very, very interesting. In one of the messages in there, Bannon, talking to Epstein, says that he's headed to meet with a former Soros partner who is funding his operations. Now, who might that be? A former Soros partner who's funding Bannon's operations. Well, there's a few different people. Could be Stan Druckenmiller. It could be Jim Rogers. Or it could be Scott Bessent. And Scott Bessent has appeared on Bannon's War Room a number of times over the past several years. So is Bessent one of the guys who has been backing Bannon? Is this why Elon and Bessent don't like each other? What's Bessent's angle in all of this? What's Bannon's angle in all of this? I know that like Tom Luongo is he's convinced that Bannon is essentially like an extension of the City of London. I think it's possible, but I also don't take that as like a foregone conclusion. I kind of think Bannon's on his own thing. He's a megalomaniac, and he could be like a useful idiot by other people. Other people could be manipulating and using him as a useful idiot. But I kind of think Bannon is sort of his own thing. So if Bessent is the one who was funding Bannon, while Bannon is going after Trump, obviously the natural conclusion from this is, oh, Bannon is like the Manchurian candidate. He's embedded himself in Trump's administration, and he's going to strike, and he's going to betray the president. And it's possible. I'm not going to say that you can't. I'm not going to say that that's not conceivable. But all of this is what I mean about when you start talking about the way that these different people relate to each other and how human beings interact at these levels and the sorts of incentives they follow and all that kind of thing. Nothing is easily reduced to something that you would see in a Tom Cruise movie. There's 4 categories of people. There are, if you think of like a Punnett square where you have ideological or non-ideological, and then you could have, for lack of a better term, you could have like white hat or black hat. Broad categories, but just kind of to directionally point at what I'm thinking about here. So you can have an ideological white hat, or you can have a non-ideological white hat. Or you can have an ideological black hat or a non-ideological black hat. The non-ideological black hat would be the person that you typically think of as a mercenary. That would also be the non-ideological white hat. But this would be the person who's either doing the black hat things just simply because they're trying to make a buck and they don't believe in the cause or anything, but they're just there for whatever reason. Then you might have a non-ideological white hat who is someone who is working for the good guys, doing the good stuff simply because it fits whatever financial incentives or whatever. It's kind of the thing I was mentioning earlier, where I'm like, I don't care what's going on in someone's head. If they're going to do good things, if they're going to act like a noble, then I don't need them to think like a noble. I just want them to act like a noble. But then you have the ideological ones. And this is where I think people tend to, especially hyper-ideological people, tend to project hyper-ideological frameworks into the minds of the people they're trying to model the thoughts of or the motivations of. So most people really only have 2 categories of these 4 that I've described. They just have ideological white hats and ideological black hats. But I think the other 2 categories are probably far more prevalent. People who aren't motivated by ideology, especially if you're in these if you're sort of like a mid-tier player. You might be ideological. You also very well might not be ideological. So I know that Bannon very clearly is highly ideologically motivated. I think Bessent is ideologically motivated to a certain extent. Toward what end? I don't really know. But it's conceivable to me that Bessent is, so say it's actually true that Bessent is the guy who Bannon referred to as the former Soros partner who's funding his operation. So we're assuming that that's true. Now, within that framework, is Bessent funding Bannon because Bannon hates Trump and Bessent wants to take down Trump? Or is Bessent funding Bannon because he had a good dinner with Bannon one time and he likes him and he's bought into the MAGA worldview, and he sees Bannon as someone who's a great exponent of that? Also, this was 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was like 2018, possibly when that message that I read about that when that happened. And it's possible that at the time Besant was troubled by Trump, and the interim since then, he's come around on Trump. You know, there's so many different variables that can be had here, but none of this stuff, all of this nuanced talk that I'm doing here, most people just be like, oh, it's just cope. And we're just going to default to the lowest common denominator. All there is the ideological good guy and the ideological bad guy, and those are the only categories that exist. Because the other if we're going to get speculative here, the other thing with Bannon is were his connections to Epstein, was he himself running some sort of a sting on Epstein? Is he chumming up to Epstein because he's operating as some kind of like intelligence agent working for the white hats? I kind of doubt it, but I also can't rule it out. So I know this doesn't necessarily make for great like content and podcasting to just be like, yeah, here's a bunch of possibilities and I don't really know what one it is. But I like to think it's at least honest. Someone dropped this in here. I don't remember who it was. Kingless Kingdom. Yes, I did see this. There's this tweet here that Massie had sent earlier. He said, there's a false rumor that I voted against the Save America Act today. I'll vote for it when it comes to the floor. I voted against a rule that allows it to get a vote, but the rule also suspends House rules and allows spending bills to come to the floor with no 24-hour notice. This same tweet, word for word, was sent as a reply to Matt Forney from Brenda Migliori. And Captive Dreamer said, whoever runs Massie's account runs this one too. This is deleted, and it's a word-for-word copy of Massie's post. Everything about Massie is fake. His audience is fake. Everything. I again, this may not be super satisfying, but I think it's possible that this was Massie accidentally tweeted from the wrong account. He didn't tweet from his burner, or whoever runs his account didn't tweet or tweeted it from the burner instead of tweeting it from the main. But I think it's also possible that it could have been some kind of a bot, or it could have been some sort of insane person. You know, maybe this is Brenda Migliori is some boomer who loves Thomas Massie and didn't like that Matt Forney was talking shit about Thomas Massie. So she went and she copied and pasted the body of Massie's tweet instead of the link to Massie's tweet to like try to counter what he was saying. So I don't know if I'm not fully ready to say here Massie is just is pumping out burners and accidentally tweeted from the wrong account. It's possible. Again, it's possible. I'm saying that a lot in this episode. It's possible, but I don't think it's necessarily conclusive. It's followed by Massie. Massie follows a lot of people. Massie follows me. Massie's followed me for several years. Let me see if he still does. That'd be interesting to see. Thomas Massie. Yep. Yeah, he still follows me. He follows 25,000 people. So again, I don't think that's. I'm not going to take that as absolutely conclusive. It definitely does stink, but I don't know. Okay, so now the Khanna side of things. Why is Massie collaborating with Khanna on this? You can also point out that like Jasmine Crockett has said repeatedly now that Thomas Massie is the one good Republican. Yeah, good job, Massie. You're the one good Republican. Why? What? Like, how do you live in a world where Jasmine Crockett is singing Thomas Massie's praises, and you can view that and hold that recognition in your head at the same time as the thought that Massie is some sort of like noble hero who's sticking it to the powers that be and intrepidly taking down the pedophile networks that occupy the political system. Like, yeah, Jasmine Crockett is very motivated by the desire to take down elite pedophile networks, and so she's very proud of the work Thomas Massie is doing. No, she obviously recognizes that Thomas Massie is an ally in trying to attack Trump and try to take back control for Democrats. This is like a woke, more correct thing. She sees plainly what's happening. She sees plainly that this has nothing to do with elite pedophiles and everything to do with trying to ensure that Democrats win elections. So why is Ro Khanna involved in all of this? Who is Ro Khanna? Well, he's a representative from California. And there's another major initiative that he is front and center in right now, which is this gigantic wealth tax being proposed in California. This wealth tax is insane. It's a one-time 5% tax on paper net worth. In other words, say you are a startup. You're a startup founder. You found a startup in California. And you get a big investment. You have some big investor who comes in, gives you you do a big capital raise. And your post-raise evaluation is, say, $1 billion. Well, now you're going to get a tax bill against a 5% against a $1 billion net worth. You're going to have to pay that in taxes. Despite not having that liquid at all. So you're going to have to sell all of your shares in the company, which is going to tank the valuation of your company. This is just straight up an attack on like entrepreneurship, starting companies. Like this is a California attack on Silicon Valley, which is obviously happening because Silicon Valley suddenly started veering in the MAGA direction. So this is an intra-Democrat, intra-lib war that's happening. And Ro Khanna clearly is serving as the representative for the establishment Democrat money against the young Silicon Valley upstart money. This is the guy that Thomas Massie is partnered with to take down the Epstein network. The guy who is simultaneously pushing forth this 5% wealth tax in California that's driving all of these people out of California, clearly at the behest of essentially the what's the guy's name? There's Steven Spielberg. There's another big California who is the major producer who basically runs the DNC right now. I can't remember the guy's name. Please give me the result. No, it's not Ken Martin. I can't remember the guy's name, but there's a major Hollywood producer who's one of the biggest movers and shakers in the DNC at the moment. And Rob Reiner. Yeah, no, not Rob Reiner. But this is basically like Hollywood and old DNC money against Silicon Valley, Peter Thiel, upstart money. And this is the guy who Ro Khanna is. Ro Khanna is the guy who is running point on this initiative right now. So these are the two big things he's working on. And I don't think that these are disconnected from one another. Because, a lot of people are already speculating that his whole agenda with this wealth tax thing is because he himself has presidential aspirations in 2028. So is there a deal that's been cut here between Massie and whomever he is representing, collaborating, working with, coordinating with, and Ro Khanna and whoever he's collaborating and funded by and working with, to try to clear the political field to ensure that there's something like a Ro Khanna versus Ron DeSantis election in 2028. Interestingly, right at this moment, while all of this is happening, suddenly you get this headline from the Free Press. I skipped over this, so let me jump back to it real quick. The Free Press. The GOP senator is mulling a presidential run, and he says Trump's deportation methods reduce public trust. Rand Paul. Nice, big, slobbering think piece about Rand Paul. Republicans are on course for a decimating election. What do you know? What do you know? Right at the moment that Thomas Massie is participating in a sting operation against the Trump administration, his close ally is suddenly thinking about, oh, maybe I'm going to run for president. And Thomas Massie is doing this in collaboration with a California Democrat, brown Democrat socialist, serving as a front for the old money in the DNC, running against the Silicon Valley tech, like the tech right, effectively. You see the connections that I'm seeing here? I'm happy for someone to disabuse me of these notions, but when I see smoke, I'm going to assume that there's fire here. For more on Khanna and this thing with the tech, or with the California tax, there's a segment here. I was listening to this on 3X earlier to try to get through it all, but I listened to this when it first came out, January 9. This is the All-Ins 2026 predictions episode, which is quite good, actually. But for the first, I think it's 12 minutes or so, they talk about the California exodus and some of the implications and the goings-on and stuff with this wealth tax.
This is what we need. Let him go.
All right, here we go.
This is Jason in the corner warming up.
2, shut the up, Freeberg. It's my show. 3, 2. All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 podcast in the world, the podcast I, Jason Calacanis, named, created, and I'm the executive producer for life. With me, my 3 miscreant friends, Chamath Palihapitiya, our dictator. Love you, brother. Good seeing you.
Love you.
David Friedberg, our sultan of science. And, yeah.
You're gay!
Czar. Yeah. Who's now made his way down to Austin. Welcome, brother. Let's go shooting. Let's get those beef ribs. David Sachs, how you settling into the great state of Texas? Everybody wants to know.
I'm loving the 70-degree weather. Is it like this all year round?
No.
You know, it's this is a very wonderful time of year. You miss the 2 weeks where it goes to freezing temperatures. We have 10 days of freezing temperatures, and then we have 80 days of 100-degree temperatures. But you'll be on a yacht or Italy or somewhere during that, like the rest of us. That's basically all you need to know about Austin. Just get out during the summers because it's brutal. That's it. Everything else is fan-freaking-tastic. But in all seriousness, you're here. You're here. You've moved. You've domiciled in Texas. Yeah. This has happened.
It happened in December.
Yes.
And so we closed on a new house. We moved in, went to the DMV. I signed a lease for an Austin office for craft.
Nice.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done.
Okay. I'll get you a dentist and whatever else you need.
I got a doctor too.
Okay. Does this mean I have to bring Moose back? This has been the big discussion in our house. Does this mean we lose Moose, or do we have joint custody?
He needs a significant acreage to run around. We know that.
Oh, he does. But he misses you, and I will definitely bring him by for a visit. And we'll be playing some backgammon, smoking some cigars.
Yeah, you got to come by.
Cannot wait.
I can't believe you haven't come by yet.
And Chamath, what about you guys? You guys going to come down? 2 of 4 besties.
Nat and I started the process in December. We are coming to check things out. We have not made any final decisions, though.
Okay. Shout out to our boy, Khanna, for driving everybody out of the state.
So here's the funniest thing is we're all in the chat group discussing the California wealth tax, whether people are going to leave or not.
Funny.
So Chamath, he's making a big show. I'm going to stay and fight. I'm not leaving my home. They can't drive me out. And then meanwhile, I get a call from my broker who says she's helping Chamath find a place. What's going on?
Is Chamath doing the backdoor trade? I'm shocked that Chamath tells you one thing and is doing another.
Oh, my God.
He's at least hedging his bets.
He's hedging his bets.
A lot of people are hedging their bets. A lot of people are hedging.
Sergey's in Florida. Larry's got a beautiful place in Florida, I see, according to the news. A lot of people. And I saw Governor Abbott reached out to you.
That's right. He welcomed me to Texas on X. A lot of people did. Michael Dell did.
Yes.
Ted Cruz.
And it was a real welcome reception. It's funny. I never got anything like that when I was in California.
Jason, I put it
for some reason. The politicians were never.
They weren't embracing you.
Yeah, they never embraced me. I don't know why.
Who knows?
I put this on X, but when you look at our friends that have all explicitly left, it's about $500 billion of net worth, which I think is very bad for the long-term budget of California. And I can pick about 25 people just off the top of my head. And then if you think about all the people that will stay and fight, I still intend to stay and fight. But if we're forced to look down the barrel of an asset tax that has God knows what methodology, it's the only thing that's united everybody on the left and the right. Even Reid Hoffman thinks this is insane.
So, where'd this go?
It would be available to be taxed will be gone. Probably had everybody on the left.
So Reid Hoffman said, Rep. Khanna reached out to me to discuss the proposed California wealth tax And while I am against the proposed tax, I'm always open to dialogue with our elected leaders. The proposed California wealth tax is badly designed in so many ways that a simple social post cannot cover all of the massive flaws. One well-documented example is the horrendous idea to tax illiquid stock in the proposal. Poorly designed taxes incentivize avoidance, capital flight, and distortions that ultimately raise less revenue. So even fucking Reid Hoffman is not happy about this. Again, this is an intra-Democrat party war that's happening now over this California wealth tax.
And the right. Even Reid Hoffman thinks this is insane. I think a lot of other people will leave. It's probably half the total wealth that the budget estimated would be available to be taxed will be gone.
Wow. I mean, I don't understand.
That has huge implications to the social programs and the general budget of California.
Listen, I think this is going to be a topic. This is a prediction. I think this is going to be a topic throughout the year because it's not going away. They're gathering signatures right now.
I agree.
And we're going to find out in, say, April whether it's on the ballot. Now, it's possible they don't gather the signatures, but they only need about 850,000 of them. If it gets on the ballot, again, we'll know in just a few months, there's going to be a huge freak out. And I think there'll be a lot of people who will say, I can't take the risk. They're going to leave the state. So I think there's going to be a rush for the exits. There's going to be all sorts of repercussions from that. Then there'll be an election in November, obviously. We'll find out if it passes or not. And then there'll be legal challenges. So this is going to be a saga. I don't think this is over by a long shot. And quite frankly, even if it's beaten in 2026, I think a lot of people expect that some version of this comes back in 2028, which is the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge in terms of leaving is I don't think this problem is going away.
It's very difficult if you're an entrepreneur with a good idea to start building here.
So there's a couple of points here. Like the first one is, will it actually be on the ballot? And then if it is on the ballot, will it actually pass? And then there's going to be legal fights over it, even were it to pass. But I think like 850,000 signatures, if that's all they have to get it on the ballot in all of California, they're going to go find 100,000 people to sign it, and then they're going to forward 750,000. I think it definitely is going to be on the ballot. I'll be happy to be proven wrong, but I think it's definitely going to be on the ballot.
Because if you get stuck in success with a bunch of illiquid stock and have no way to pay 5% of that value, you're going to bankrupt your own company. It just doesn't make any sense.
And what if your company goes to zero the next year, which can totally happen with private companies? You still owe the tax bill.
Yeah, I don't know how that reverses itself.
So this is how they've structured this. So if your company goes to zero the next year, you would still owe the tax bill on the company. This is one of the most absurd taxes that has ever been proposed anywhere in the world, frankly.
It's a terrible idea. I mean, I was talking to Khanna and Eric Swalwell, who we had on the program. And I told these guys, like these dopey Democrats, you have to stop fraud first before you start seizing people's assets or start a discussion about raising taxes. And, we had Nick Shirley on last week, who was doing his investigative journalism. Shout out to Shirley. And how do we sell to the American public that we want to seize their assets and then sending it out the back door to fund fraud? That makes no sense. It's a leaky bucket. So fix the bucket first, and then let's have an honest discussion about what the right tax rate is. And why do this with the unique tax? Why not just put a point onto capital gains or income tax and have that discussion?
That's a great point. You could also do what Bill Ackman suggested, which is stop allowing these margin loans. There's a lot that actually live off of margin. Is it a good idea? Yes and no, depending on the asset base you have. And if the tax laws changed, we would all change the approach.
You mentioned that Larry and Sergey have left the state, and they're probably getting dragged for that. But one of the reasons why I think they kind of have to is because of the supervoting stock provision in this thing, where the way they calculate the value of your stock is not based on its liquid market value.
This is an important point here that Sachs makes.
In this thing, where the way they calculate the value of your stock is not based on its liquid market value, but if you own supervoting shares, they multiply your ownership, your supervoting, by the market cap of the company, and they deem your shares to be worth that. Yeah. So, for example, Larry and Sergey, I think they combined have voting power of about 52% of Google. So what's Google worth these days? About $4 trillion?
$3.5 trillion, $4 trillion.
Okay. So now I think, they're very wealthy guys. I think they're each worth whatever, 100 billion-ish or whatever it is.
I think, yeah.
200. But now their net worth will be deemed to be, I guess each one of them would be deemed to be roughly 1 trillion each, not call it 200 billion. So the 5% tax for them is more like a 25% tax of all their net worth.
So the dudes are worth like 200 billion, and because of the way that they tax the nature of their shares, they would be getting taxed at a rate of, what would that be? is that $500 million? What am I can't do this math on the fly like this. I used to be so good at doing math, and I don't do it enough anymore. I use a calculator too often. But it'd be 5% of basically $1 trillion. What is that? 5% of $1 trillion is going to would be 5 billion. Yeah, I don't know. I can't do the math on the fly.
Well, it becomes 50 because you'd have to sell more than that to overcome the drag of selling to generate 25 billion or 50 billion of net worth. You have to sell 2x that because you have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah, 50 billion.
Right. So now what is the point of having that super voting provision in there? It's just totally punitive and vicious.
All right, so let's just go with a quick prediction here. I'm going to call an audible. We're going to get into the prediction show, folks. We've been delaying this prediction show because the world is moving at an incredible pace, and the news is just, let's just call it what it is. It's just intense. We have a lot of stories you all want us to cover. We will cover them. But we're going to start with our prediction show. Just lightning round prediction here. Does this seizure tax, I'm going to call it what it is. It's a seizure tax. They're seizing assets. Does the seizing assets tax go into effect or not? Does it pass or not? Freeberg, you're first. Yes or no? Give us a percentage, polymarket it.
Well, does it get on the ballot first? And then does
we know it's going to get on the ballot. I think we agree with that.
Right? That's not
correct. Oh, we don't know?
Not sure.
So then I'll make it a two-parter. Fine. Does it get on the ballot? Does it pass? Chamath, you seem ready to go. Go.
No, Freeberg, go ahead.
I don't think it's going to get on the ballot.
Oh.
I agree with that.
In California.
100%.
All right, here's your poly market. Everybody shout out to Shane.
No, this is to make the ballot. Knicks fan. This is to make the ballot.
This is the question. Will the billionaires to Austin wealth tax, drive people? Will it make it onto the California ballot? Lightly traded, currently at 69%.
Did you see how much lower it was? That spike happened after Khanna elevated the issue. So when it became a cause celeb among progressives and Bernie Sanders weighed in, it spiked up from, what was it, like 45% to 80%.
Okay, so when
Sanders weighed in.
So as soon as it was popularized, as soon as it was made, like more people became aware of it, it became more likely. People began betting that it would become more likely.
It spiked up from, what was it, like 45% to 80%.
Okay, so when Khanna committed political seppuku, it drove up. Maybe he had a bet. Maybe he placed a bet.
I don't think it's political suicide for him. There's only two ways it doesn't get on the ballot, right? One is if the SEIU-UHW, which is the union that supported this, proposed it, doesn't have the money to pay to collect the signatures. But you would think that they would, right?
Mm-hmm.
8 million or so is roughly what it costs to gather the signatures for these types of things. Clearly, they can find 850,000 people in California who support it if they're willing to put the effort in. The other possibility is that the powers that be, let's call it Gavin Newsom and the machine, are able to negotiate with this union to get them to stand down. And I don't have any insight into that because that's obviously Democrat politics, not Republican politics.
But Freeberg and Chamath might have some information.
But
okay,
you have some insight. I don't know.
We're gonna leave it at that.
But if it does get on the ballot, what do you think the odds are that it passes?
I think it's going to be a really important
40%
moment for people to vote the ability to be industrious and have agency. Or what did Mamdani say? It's rugged individualism versus
collectivism, also known as communism. As in collect. We collect your assets, Chamath.
He said that we're going to replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
I mean, at least he's saying it out loud. I like these new politicians just telling you straight up what we're doing.
Well, his new housing commissioner, have you seen this?
Yeah, the white lady's like, white people must suffer. And then she's like, she had these things where she's like, I see white babies in the airport and it makes me mad. And I'm like, really? This is crazy.
Okay.
What man broke up with this lady? Because that dude has created a monster.
Didn't she say something like we need to introduce a new relationship between white people and property and the property rights or something?
Yeah,
like that?
exactly.
I mean, they're saying it out loud now. And then I guess she had a mental breakdown and started crying when they came to see her.
No, what happened is they pointed out that her parents own a multi-million-dollar home and then she broke down in tears.
Oh, her mom's a white supremacist? I didn't realize her mom was a white supremacist. That explains it all. This is all about her mom.
I feel bad for her parents.
Oh God, can you imagine imagine when your kid goes and does this? It says, we have to go collect your houses. I mean, listen, let's do it. Let's do it. Everybody wants to hear our prediction for 2026. We've been pushing.
Okay, so yeah, Sunny Milk. It's amazing that we've got a member of the administration that just sits down on a podcast on a semi-weekly basis and just gives his insights on the market. This whole episode is very much worth listening to, I think. Like if just for I don't know how. I know there's a lot of people like, oh, I don't like that guy or I don't like this thing, and so I don't listen to it. For me, it's a matter of gathering data. So I don't really care whether I like the person or don't like the person or agree with them or don't agree with them. I want to get a sampling of how they see the world, what they're thinking about, what sort of issues are present on their mind, And so I find the All In podcast very good for kind of tapping into that world. And I also I love Chamath. Chamath cracks me up. But yeah, the most base thing, Cuck anus, Jason Cuck anus, the most base thing he's said all decade. A couple other just quick things here to round us off. There is an organization called Patriotic Millionaires, which is a bunch of millionaires who consider themselves patriotic because they think that that wealth inequality is a problem. This is the president of Patriotic Millionaires speaking to the IMF. And I got to warn you, fellas, apologies for what I'm about to subject your ears to, but you got to hear what this woman has to say. I wonder how many times people have said that phrase in the world.
We actually have a beautiful opportunity in front of us with the United States being such an unmitigated disaster as it currently is. Okay? So there is the opportunity, and within that opportunity, I would suggest three things. The first one, we have to have a global asset registry. We have to know who has the freaking money. And if they don't want you to know that they have the money or how much money they have, chances are they got it from somewhere they shouldn't have gotten it from, and they're spending it on something they shouldn't be spending it from. So number one, a global asset registry. Number two, we have to facilitate an international conversation about what is enough. And that if there is a number that is enough, there is a number that is too much. We believe that money becomes power. And when power threatens your democracy, you have to take away power, and the only way to take away that power is by taking away the money. And the only way to take away the money is taxation. So number three.
If there's too much, you must take away the power. The only way to take away the power is to take away the money. The only way to take away the money is taxation. Just saying it out loud.
Forget progressivity, all right? Forget progressivity, unless by progressivity you mean taxation that makes people less rich. This is not about a 2% wealth tax when somebody's getting a higher return than that. This is about taxation in order to preserve human freedom, to preserve the...
Taxation in order to preserve human freedom. Taxation explicitly for the purpose of making people less rich. Just laying it all out there. We need taxation to preserve freedom. This is the state of the Democrats right now. This is the absolute state of them. AOC, get the milking machines out, boys. Here is AOC, the big candidate for president, right? Yeah, fucking AOC is not going to be winning any nominations.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is a...
Spit it out, bitch!
This is, of course, a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Some of these women, they're so stupid.
Shut up, bitch!
Oh, man. Imagine the experience that these people are having when they have the Trump administration come over there with a bunch of dudes that just come and absolutely dick them down. And then you have this torta show up and bumble her way through something like that. Wow. All right. Well, that is all I have for you guys tonight. yet another episode of the Astrolabe in the books. 232.16. Add 1488 to that. 247. What is that? 247.02, something like that. So it looks like we did not make it there. Let me just double check over here, make sure there isn't anything that came through that did not trigger an alert. And I know I haven't kept up with the chat completely, so let me just double check and see if anybody sent anything through Cash App or Venmo. And go away, Kalshi. I don't care about you. The answer is no. So, no drawing tonight. No drawing. Now, tomorrow, what I'm going to do is for the pseudolabes, they're usually less viewed. There's not as many people who show up for that. So, the daily tip goal for the pseudolabes will be 200. So that could be that the pseudolabes are the times when there's actually the greatest likelihood of getting a giveaway. So make sure you guys show up tomorrow for the pseudolabe, contribute to the tip goal, and you may have a better chance of actually getting accomplishing the tip goal those days. Make sure you go to forum.kingpill.com and give me your deets. All it is just a pseudonym of some type, or your name if you want. It's going to be whatever name, whatever pseudonym you put in there will be shown on screen when I do the drawing. So just give me some way to identify you and some way to contact you. I will not show your contact information on screen. But that is Chancla incoming. No, not the Chancla. Yeah, tomorrow, pseudolabe, probably late afternoon, early evening, something like that. I was up. I finished the show last night at like 2 a.m. here, and Cooper had texted me beforehand, and he wanted to talk to me about some stuff. So he asked me if he said, "Can I give you a call tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, you can give me a call like early in the morning." And he says, "That's good. I'll be up at 5 a.m. Eastern time." So it'd be 4 a.m. my time. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just stay awake until he calls me. So he called me, and we wound up talking on the phone for like 4 hours. So I went to bed around 8:30 or 9 or so this morning, and slept for a few hours, then got up, and I'm tired. So I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to get the show uploaded to the Substack, and then I'm going to go to bed so that I can come back here tomorrow, deliver you guys a fantastic pseudolabe. Make sure you guys show up for that. Make sure you share the show. We got to get the audience bigger here. Get the word out. More people need white pills. So many people who don't know about all these white pills. They're suffering. My people are suffering for lack of white pills. So make sure you share the show. If you're listening on the podcast version later on, leave a 5-star rating and review. If you're watching on Substack or on Rumble or on YouTube, make sure you like the show. Leave me a comment. Subscribe to the Substack as well. That'll always be the fallback, I think. And if stuff gets taken down elsewhere, that'll be the place where everything is. And you can also subscribe on Kick. And I haven't said this in a while. One of the benefits to subscribing on Kick, like if you want to, you want to support the show, every little bit is appreciated. You could do $5 a month. The best place to do that is going to be Kick, because I get 95% of that $5. Kick is the best platform in terms of the fees that it charges. So that's the place to go. And the thing that will get you the most for your money is joining the King Pill Discord, kingpill.com. Go sign up for that. What do you got here, Isaac? Let me see. Cooper is doing well. He's doing great. Oh, yeah. Thank you for reminding me of this. I forgot to include this. I saw this earlier, and I was like, I was going to include that. And then I forgot to. Another Sea Dance AI video. This stuff's getting incredible. Get your bonk sticks ready, boys. You know what's coming.
We need to build more data centers. AI needs it.
To cure cancer, right? We're curing cancer. Right?
We need to build...
Look at the mouths. I know that's not the body part you're necessarily focused on in this video, but look at their mouths when they talk. Like, this has been one of the AI things. Look at their mouths here.
We need to build more data centers. AI needs it.
To cure cancer, right? We're curing cancer. Right?
Crazy. Yeah, Cooper's doing well. Had a great conversation with him. He's it's funny, he's he's been totally out of the loop because he was dealing with everything with the car and with his surgery and all those sorts of things. He's still got a droopy eye, but it's starting to get back to normal, and he's gotten back in the swing of things at work. But he said he was so out of the loop for so long that like we were talking about Minnesota stuff, and I was like, so you remember the like if you've been kept up with what's going on with like Tom Homan in Minnesota, and he was like, oh, Tom Homan's in Minnesota, and I was like, oh shit, okay, how far back do we need to go? I said, so you saw the Nick Shirley video, right? And he was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, oh my God, you have really been out of the loop. So he said that he's actually been like normie maxing, basically. He's totally been in the normie world and not paying attention to everything, not really closely tuned into all of it. And so we ended up having a really interesting conversation building off of that, like the normie perspective. Honestly, if Cooper and I were to record our phone conversations, they would make really good podcasts in themselves. You guys probably would have enjoyed listening to most of the 4 hours of everything that we talked about. But yeah, Cooper's doing great. Appreciate you guys being concerned about him. Let him know that you love him. He's basically not active really on any social media that I know of. But he does have a Twitter account, and you could go follow his Twitter account, and you could tweet that you think he's sexy. At Cooper Brooks. It's that easy. At Cooper Brooks on X. Go follow the man and go flirt with him on the internet. That would make him happy. And make sure you guys come back here tomorrow for another episode of the Astrolabe for the great Pseudolabe with our great Adjit Prop Master. Appreciate all of you guys. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for hanging out with me and entertaining me. And I will see you guys tomorrow. For now, I leave you with Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make